Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Today, yet again, another special guest, this time from Nelson, New Zealand. We are so fortunate to have Michelle Carpenter on, host of Keeping It Real, a healer, a medium. She'll help you with your grief, your trauma, connecting to relatives, and much, much more. She is super talented. She is super positive, and I am very thankful to have met her, to have her as a guest on the show. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Michael, for having me. It's awesome spending time with you.
And so, our summer, our spring, I mean, we're right on the edge here in America, is the opposite there. Has it been a little cold lately?
It has been a little tadly cold, but it's just wonderful to see the different seasons. And yep, we're in the midst of winter. Sorry, winter.
And you've had a spate of events lately on the other island, right? The southern island, I believe.
So, yep. So we're on the South Island. So we're at the. So Nelson is the top of the South Island, and I went down to the lower part of the South Island. And I don't know why I'm showing you my hands, but it's kind of like, yep.
Where it was much, much colder, but you had a fantastic series of events, as I understand.
It was wonderful. Myself and my friend Jill Cole. So I had an evening of mediumship, connecting with loved ones who had passed over from Queenstown. That was in Queenstown, and then Wanaka, which is 45 minutes. Queenstown's in the mountains. It's beautiful, and then 45 minutes away is a beautiful little village called Wanaka. And myself and Jill Cole had launched our new business, which is called Earth Masters, and it was very much an experiential workshop where we had beautiful souls come and teaching them empowerment.
I love it. So, hey, do you do hands-on for folks? Do you do more listening and then tell them what you're getting, or both?
Pretty much both. When Spirit talked to me, my eyes sort of go up to one side or the other side, and sometimes what happens is the way the Spirit come through is they will come through in their personality. They will come through, as an example, there was one gentleman that came through, and I get guided where to go in within the space that we're in, and I listen. I'll be shown like left back or right middle, and I direct and I go to that person. And there was one gentleman that I can remember right now, and his father came through, and his father was as he came through, he was like, I said, I don't know why. Did your dad frown? He's like, yep, that sounds like him. And it was the first time this gentleman, a Maori gentleman, beautiful, beautiful man, that had received a message from his dad that had passed over. And I I move around the room. I stand up front, but then I move. I like to go to the person, So sometimes that may mean that other people may not hear the message that's coming through, but I really like to direct the message and make it personable in the moment. And I often would say, like, can I give you a hug? Or they ask me to hold their hands, or afterwards, because it can bring up quite a bit of emotion. Would it be okay if I can give you a hug afterwards? And I really love that because it's very interactive for me.
Mm. So you're a medium, you're a psychic, you even channel as well, and it would be like a group of angels, Universal Love, Council of Eight, I believe it's called. Can you just talk to us about, you've got a wide set of healing skills. You've been doing this for a while, but like maybe where did this begin, or take us to the middle, or talk to us more about how it's evolved lately, or take us in any direction you'd like.
Awesome. Thank you for asking about them because so I connected with them about 4.5 years ago, and it was very different to connecting with loved ones who had passed over. And I kept asking, and when clients were on my therapy table, my hand kept moving, and I would do different things, and I'd go, where's this coming from? My hands would get really, really cold. And often, I think we've been led to believe that healers have warm hands. I'm not one of those. Like my clients would say, oh my God, Michelle, your hands are really cold, but it's so nice. It's quite therapeutic. And over time, I started to deliver messages, and I'd ask, who is this? It just felt different to me in terms of what I was used to. And I was shown they're the council. And I say, well, who's the council? And they say, Michelle, the council of eight. Hence, we've got you, we're helping you to connect into the energy field and the body. And I say, well, where does the council come from? And they'd say, well, we're from the 15th dimension. And I, over time, have learned to really trust their messages, their guidance. And I played a lot of self-doubt in my life, and I still do. Every now and again, I've realized that that's the human part of me. And they'd say, Michelle, just trust. We're the council. And I'd say, oh, and I've had people come across and say, well, we've heard of the council of nine. Who are the council of eight? And they've shown me they're ascended masters and they've once walked the earth planes. I say, well, what do you mean? So they've come through for me in different energies. And the different energies have been Princess Diana, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Mother Mary, Mother Teresa. And if you think about it in the way that I know and the way I've been taught, is the eight is a number that's in infinity. There's a beginning and there's an ending, but there's not. It just keeps going and going and going. Where the 15th dimension is, I'm not too sure. But over time, it's just been this real strong connection. And when I initially started channeling them or receiving their downloads, I would close my eyes. And just in the last 3 to 4 months, they said to me, again, it was my self-doubt, because I was worried, would I get the messages if I was connecting with somebody? Would I be able to still bring the messages through? And they'd say to me, Michelle, you really open your eyes. And it's been a really beautiful connection of delivering and messages of love. You mentioned it, and I would ask them to deliver simplicity, but truth within the messages that are coming through. And sometimes I've come to realize, doing one-on-one sessions, delivering messages of truth. A lot of us as humans want the truth, and I put that in inverted commas because, yep, we want honesty, give the honesty. But when the messages come through, and they've called people out, and what I mean by that is they would say to somebody, a client of mine, or in a group setting, they will ask, is it okay if we can, share what we feel or suggest would be necessary for you to elevate your awareness or your consciousness? And they've called people out and said, stop an addiction. An addiction might be smoking weed. An addiction might be drinking too much alcohol. But again, it's delivered in the way I have sensed, or the way sometimes I know people don't like it. They're like, oh, they called me out and I didn't like that. And I'm like, okay, well, can you know that this is for the betterment of yourself? And I've had an experience like that too, Michael, where I was shown for a long time that alcohol didn't resonate for my vibration. I mean, I really love in summer, on a good old summer's day, a G&T, but it's kind of like I take 2 hours and I'm like, oh my God, I can't function. And I like a whiskey on a lovely evening sitting in front of the fire in winter. But again, it's like, oh my God, I can't function. And they've shown me many times that, I really have to listen to my body. And I'm not making this good or bad. It just is, because I know as a human being we have free will. So I've learned to enjoy a G&T in summer, but sip on it really slowly, because if I glug it down, I'm finished. Right. And we've created this real harmonious relationship. And again, I like simplicity, and I believe that when I channel, the messages come through and they speak in symbolisms. So I love to ask clients to record the sessions, because they'll come back and they'll listen to it, and I'll receive an email and say, wow, Michelle, I didn't understand what they meant at the time, but now after listening back to it, and it's kind of like they plant seeds, Michael. They plant seeds, which I love, because then it's teaching people empowerment. They plant, or we plant the seeds, but then people come back and go, I got it. And I'm like, yes, because we're all on our own journey. We're all on our own way of learning. And I don't know if I'm making any sense right now, but we all... Totally. I love the fact that the seed planting is where the empowerment happens for that individual, because the Council of Eight would say, can we make a suggestion, or this is what we sense for you, but then as an individual, the human that's receiving the message is able to sit with it and go, this is the interpretation of what they meant. And that's what I love, because we get the aha moments. And the funny thing is that I receive the downloads, and I'm still having to sit and discipline myself with receiving the messages myself, and either typing them out or vocalizing them on a voice memo. But it's kind of like they're on tap for me, but I don't use the on tap. I love to give the messages, and I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I need to get the messages too for myself. But I just love, we have a really beautiful, 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 harmonious relationship, and they've really taught me to trust in their messages.
Well, I love this. Okay, so your website's easy for folks. A lot of times on shows, they tell the website, it's in the fine print below the video or at the end of the show, but let's just go ahead and blow it now. Michelle Carpenter, just as you would spell it, MICHELLE Carpenter.co.nz, if I got that right. And then your YouTube channel has almost 2,000 subscribers. 84 videos, but those videos are pretty cool in terms of your channeling on a lot of them. You've got interviews as host of your show, Keeping It Real, but your channel is at Michelle Carpenter Medium. And so let's do the chicken and the egg thing. What were you first? Were you a psychic, a medium? How did you initially start off, and how has it evolved all these years later?
Mm-hmm. So a bit of my background is I had a huge amount of trauma, and my ex-husband, who I love to bits, did the best thing for me. He decided to have an affair. And we had a 10-month-old baby girl, and I didn't know this for a long, long time. But the reason why I say it was the best thing for me is that part of my journey in this body, in this lifetime, I came to realize that I was pretty messed up, and I was probably very depressed many times, but I just was stressed, living in a place like Johannesburg, just go, 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 go. And the more I remember, I used to say to myself as a young salesperson, the more stressed I am, the better I perform. That's not how the body functions. I was led to believe that, but he had an affair, and he was living in London at the time, and I was back in South Africa, and I was 33 years old. And when I eventually found out, and I really want to just put this in there as well, is that, and I will get to how I evolved on my own journey, because I feel it's really important to share this with anybody who's watching, that my journey wasn't the normal, at the age of 4, I remember seeing spirit or spirit talking to me. I probably more than likely did, but my life was just pretty chaos in the family environment in which I had grown up in. Not good, not bad. I'm still learning to work through my own trauma of what had happened in the past. But I got to 33, and my ex now, he was living in London and coming backwards and forwards to South Africa. And my dad had affairs when we were young kids, and I've got an older brother, and he's 3.5 years older than me. And my mom kept saying, Michelle, I know the signs. He's having an affair, but he would never admit it to me. And coming backwards and forwards, it was about 1.5 years, 2 years later, probably 1.5 years, and I decided then to go and be with somebody else. And it went against because I was still married on paper. My ex-husband, I kept saying to him, I really want to be involved in a relationship, but I don't want the backwards and forwards, and he just never admitted to me. So I went and I had an affair. And the guy that I was with, it was only 2 weeks, and my ex-husband had come back to South Africa, and he said, okay, let's give it another go. And I said to him, no, I've moved on. So these were all sort of, for want of a better statement, synchronicities that were happening in my life, not good, not bad. It took me a lot of time to forgive myself in the judgment of myself, because I had a little baby girl at the time. And but it was the best thing that this guy had come into my life, because otherwise At the time, my ex-husband still hadn't admitted, a year and a half, 2 years later, that he was having an affair. And I went to go see a clairvoyant. Long story short, went to go see a clairvoyant, and he said, Michelle, you just don't know how to love yourself. And I was like, what? Just help me with my anger, because my ex-husband at the time then did admit it because I was seeing this other guy. And he's like, let's just get back together. And I'm like, no, this doesn't resonate with me because I'm seeing somebody else. And what had actually happened is I realized mentally and emotionally that I was deeply, deeply traumatized. A part of my journey in this lifetime was being sexually abused at the age of 5 by my mother's younger brother. I suffered from bulimia as a teenager. I was a ballet dancer, a modern dancer, and I didn't like my body. So I started purging. I lost my very best friend at the age of 16 and a half. She had a kidney transplant, and all of this, I just sucked it up, kept going. Got involved with guys who had cheated on me backwards and forwards, and I didn't realize this was a pattern in my life that was happening, just based on what I'd come to learn. My dad was a Rhodesian soldier, so when we were young kids, my folks had fled Zimbabwe, took us to South Africa, and I'd just, again, sucked all of this trauma up. My folks did the best thing for us, but my dad was a very bad drinker, and I would say he bordered on being alcoholic, and a weekend alcoholic. A lot of that was projected onto us. My mother loved her alcohol too. She was an angry drunk, projected that onto me, and not even knowing that being sexually abused was a thing, and how severely it had affected me. And so fast forward to being 33, like I say, learning that this was kind of like the nudge, the wake-up call. And what I forgot to mention was at the age of 24, I knocked over and killed a young girl. I was a sales rep, and I looked down. I had stopped to buy a Coca-Cola, and I think it was a Coke or a juice or something. She was walking on foot, and I was in my car.
Okay.
And I'd looked down to put the straw into my drink, and she had misjudged. I was on my side of the road. It was in daylight, and she had misjudged my car coming, and I didn't know what I'd hit because I just had this massive impact. My windscreen was completely shattered, and I looked around, and I was in horse country and cow country, like in farmland, and I didn't know. I was completely out of my body. And 4 other very kind people had stopped on the other side of the road, and I said, I don't know what I've hit. And 2 gentlemen went to go and have a look, and they came back and they said to me, you've knocked over a woman. And it was just so surreal. I think I really left my body. They called the police. My ex-boyfriend had come, and it was just this bizarre circumstance of events. So I don't know if you'd like me to go a little bit into it, but it was just kind of so surreal as to how life had happened for me. But again, at the age of 24, just sucked it up. And I was then in this ongoing court case, going backwards and forwards. And I then met my ex-husband 2 months later on this beautiful, massive party that I went on, just sucked up. I had no idea how chaotic and deeply traumatized that I'd felt at the time. And the mother of this, it was, like I said, it was a bizarre circumstance of events, because my ex-boyfriend went to go look at the body, and she died instantly. And they had said it was an older woman. But then about 3 months later, I received this phone call, because my cell phone number was on the accident report. And I thought that my boyfriend at the time, which is now my ex-husband, was playing a joke on me. And she said, Michelle, it's the young girl that you knocked over, to her mother. And I think her mother was, and it just came to me now, her mother was Mary. And I was like, what? What do you mean? And like I said, I still said, Rico, are you playing a joke on me? And she said, what do you mean, Rico, that I am this young girl's mother? And I said, what do you mean? I was led to believe this was an older woman, a big woman. And she said, no, my daughter was 14. And I was devastated.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure you can feel that in my heart right now, because I have moments where I can talk about it very easily. And then I have these moments where I'm like, wow, she was an earth angel. And
but the
she
events
was.
that happen to us don't necessarily just happen to us. I'm borrowing from, I think, a Ted Lasso episode about 4 weeks ago, but they happen for us for, don't want to say growth purposes. If it's, it is for growth. It's an opportunity. And again, not the best word in this exact moment, but there's lessons in everything and every experience. And it's what we
Sure.
get when we get more experience often when we're not paying attention. And the experiences aren't necessarily viewed as welcome, helpful. They can be very painful. The suffering, sometimes suffering experience, they're the best instructors to get us our ship oriented the right direction, to get us upright and get some wind in our sail. We're not talking about wind in our sail just yet. We're talking about just reorienting and giving yourself a chance to breathe and have space.
100%. And I agree with all of the above. And, I would love anybody watching this to know that even though I get teary, it's tears of joy, because I'm like, wow, that mother reached out to me. And I've done a lot of work on my past trauma, and I know I've connected with her in a past life, this young soul. She's come to me in a hypnosis session, and she's delightful. But the beauty of the story is that the mother had contacted me to find out how I was.
Oh,
And that's massive, because she had shared with me, besides the devastation of finding out I was a teenager, but she had shared with me that she was 7 years old when she was knocked over. And she just said, Michelle, she had no road skills. And then I found out that she was 14. And I was clearly devastated at the time, and angry, because nobody had shared with me how young she actually was, because there was something in my psyche or my head that was like, oh, it was an older woman. And I phoned my ex-boyfriend. He's like, Michelle, it was a big body. And the mother had said to me, she was a big girl, but she just didn't have a lot of road sense, apparently. So in and out of court, backwards and forwards, because I was at that time in South Africa, it was and I can't even think of the word. I wasn't arrested, but I was charged with is a culpable homicide, I think, because I'd taken a life, and in and out of court, and eventually they said that I was acquitted, because I was driving on my side of the road, and even though I'd looked down, there was nothing I can do. It was a split second, a life-changing split second. So again, like I say, 24, 33 years old. The wake-up call was my ex-husband and us going through this circumstance of events where I went to a clairvoyant, and he said to me, you got to find out how to love yourself. You got to find out how to love your life. And I was just like, what? I'm just angry. Just give me all the answers. This then led me on to going to a wonderful weekend retreat, where it was led by hospice in one of the little places. It wasn't hospice Johannesburg. It was a smaller town. And this then led me to meet my facilitator, who became my counselor, who, interesting enough, had a very similar story, also knocked over and killed a young girl. One of my most beautiful friends, Vicky, knocked over a young girl, also was sexually abused. She is older than me. So she became my mentor and my counselor, and I really started to unravel and realize how deeply traumatized I was, even from being a young girl, at the age of 5, who was abused. And I had to learn to forgive all those parts of myself. I had to learn to forgive, and I'm still learning to forgive my mother, my father. For me, we have so many cells, and every cell has a memory in our body. And so, like I say, as I started to let go of all this trauma, this deeply, deeply, deeply stressed body, mind, emotions that I'd carried for such a long time, I started to let go and started to elevate my awareness and my consciousness, and started to realize there was more. And what I forgot to throw in is I came from a Christian background, a reborn Christian background. So this was big for me, to realize that there's more. There's more energy. And the universe, my guides, were really saying, well, we're going to join the dots, and we're going to start to build the puzzle for Michelle. And Vicky, my beautiful friend, was a part of that. What Vicky knew at the time in consciousness and evolution, I was like, what? I don't know what you mean. And then she put me on to Louise Hay, and she put me on to the late Wayne Dyer, and the good old CDs, because I was still a sales rep at the time, good old CDs in the car. And I started to listen to more and more. And I started to become like this sponge in the process of forgiving myself. So I then became a counselor, a part-time counselor and caregiver for hospice. And one of my very first moments of realizing that I was a medium, which I didn't even know what a medium was, and this goes back 14, 15 years, was this client sitting in front of me, and I saw this little baby girl in her arms, and she was dressed in white, and she had dark hair, and I went, oh, I'm just seeing this little baby girl with dark hair and beautiful big eyes, and she started to sob, and she said, how do you know that? And I said, I'm just being shown that you're holding her. And she said, Michelle, I had a stillborn. And I didn't know that at the time. And she said, you're showing her exactly in the dress that I had and had her in. And so that's how the information started to come to me. And I started to realize that people would just come and talk to me out of the blue, or I'd start to talk to them, and I could start to sense things and see things. And again, I didn't even know what it meant, and I would share messages, and they'd say, how do you know this information? And I'd say, I don't know, I'm just being shown certain things. And they'd say, oh, my mother passed over, my father passed over. So it was kind of like the more I got squished to work myself, on myself, in my own traumatized state, the more I got squished, my body got squished, the more I started to elevate into realizing that there is more. And one thing I know as a truth is that we all have the gifts. You know, we might say I'm psychic medium, I channel, but I truly, truly believe that when we start to build that bridge and we squeeze ourselves, because I share a very simple example, Michael, where we come from a beautiful source, divine, and we are grown inside our mother's stomachs. And not once when I was pregnant did I have to say to my kids inside it, or my babies, I forgot the eyes, I forgot the eyebrows. Oh my God, 7 months later, what about the kidneys? We just grow from this knowing, from the source, from this divine. And then we come into this world, and then we have these contracts, these soul contracts, and we are, climatized, conditioned. We have all these belief systems that are just expressed to us, given to us. And as you said, and I don't even know how you put it, but this didn't happen to me, because I lived in my victimhood and in my anger for a very, very, very long time. Why did this happen to me? Why did all this shit happen to me? Excuse my language, but why did all this shit happen to me? So, excuse my language again. But I felt like that, and I still feel like that at times. And I have a pity party, and I'm like, okay, Michelle, just shift. You've got to get out of this funk. And I did. I lived in my victimhood, and I was angry at my parents. I was angry at my uncle. I was angry at the processes. I was angry at my ex-husband. I was angry at all the men that I chose to bring into my space, that I allowed to siphon, to suck away my power. And I just kept going and growing and going and growing in my journey. I studied neuro-linguistic programming, and I drove my coach mad. In 18 years, I sobbed in one of his weekend, and I'm laughing because I literally, I think, just irritated the bejesus out of him because he tried all techniques on me. And I came to realize, as the empath that I am, I think I was just shifting a lot of the energy in the room. And he tried all the techniques on me, and I was just like, I'm just crying. I just wish I would stop. A lot of it was mine too. And then I just wanted to learn more. So I became a sponge. And over time, I started to realize that there is more, and we all have it. And again, I choose not to believe that any of us don't have it. Because for me, as I'm walking with people, as I'm delivering the messages, as I'm channeling, I work very multidimensionally. I'm able to connect into the body. I'm able to connect into our heart consciousness, our heart awareness. So symbolically, I'll be shown in the moment that a person has like a pain through their heart. But it's because they're going through a grieving process, or they've gone through a loss. So I'm very, 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 very fortunate that these moments happened for me, for me to elevate my consciousness. And I could have stayed in my pity party. I could have stayed angry. but I didn't want to. I realized that a part of my journey was walking with people. And I don't believe in healing people. I don't believe in fixing people because I don't believe anybody's broken. I walk with humans on their journey. I walk with my clients on their journey. We kind of build the bridge. We build the bridge to get over to the other side. And I work very deeply with people. And sometimes spirit just drop in, even if people book a medium session. But I've evolved, and I'm still evolving, and I'm still learning that there is more. I mean, gosh, the universe is massive, is it not? And it's, oh God, there's just so much. There's so much that I'd love to share, but I work multidimensionally. When I channel, I see Akashic records, and it's a different vibration that comes through. It's Michelle goes to the side, the personality of Michelle goes to the side, and they come through me. But I feel incredibly blessed to have walked this life. But if you spoke to me 10 years ago, I'd have been like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. You know, like, Michael, just help me shift my shit.
Mother Teresa once said, I think if you judge people, you have no time to love them. And then let's flip that a little or switch it around. So if you judge situations or what you've had come across your path, whether it's through your actions or someone else's or a combination, you have no time to simply be in the heart, to appreciate all, to allow for your growth. Not everything's going to be just the most smooth path. Otherwise, all of our lives would be pretty dull. And so that contrast is often what we've signed up for. Other stuff is just brought our way to get us to pay attention more, to slow down. How about that? And there's a lot of stuff that will do full stops for us, whether it's illness and other stuff. No one likes to get a diagnosis and say, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. It gives me a chance to slow down, reorient my life. You walk in on the partner, the husband, the wife, the whatever, and it's drastic. And again, same thing. No one says, oh, hey, keep going. I'll come back in an hour, but this is a chance to hang a left and go in a whole new direction. Again, layoff, 30 years, you've been at the same company. I don't know anyone who calls everybody up and says, oh my God, it's fantastic. I get to go on the vacation I put off for 10 years. I can start my new company next week. No, you even maybe carried around for 10 years or longer telling everybody, I hate that company. It happened to me. I'm a victim. So I'm shocked there's some gambling going on in the human casino, to quote Casablanca, the old black and white movie. But there's a lot of gambling going on, and we've all got a lot of stacks of poker chips, how we spend our energy. And it sounds like definitely nothing was easy about it. There's nothing that, can't pop up tomorrow. But on the other hand, it feels like to me, and from everything I've seen interacting with you, you've got a tremendous amount of bandwidth to now be in a place to assist others.
Thank you. And pretty much. And, when we come from a space of complete openness in our heart, and heart coherence is I would highly recommend anybody who wants to learn about heart coherence, heart math, it gives you the science behind it. But we see people in the light of who they truly are. And in 1998, when I'd knocked over and killed this young girl, and this is what I'm realizing, and you talk about gambling, but if you look at gambling, it's kind of like ding, 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 and we get excited about the putting in the money, but the ding, 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 ding after that. But we as humans don't function that way. And coming from South Africa, we've experienced, even in the last sort of 6 years of living in New Zealand, my husband and I had no idea how much we actually have still and are still working through in terms of what we experienced. We were in an armed robbery in 2015, but we're working through that, And in 1998, I built a home with a beautiful man. 3 months later, we had fought so badly, I'd moved out. 3 months after that, I was made redundant or retrenched. I don't know what you would say in the States, but I was headhunted, taken on into this company, and then there was a shift and a transformation happening, and was asked to leave. 2 months after that, so this is all in the space of like July, October, November, July, August, September, October. 3 months later, retrenched. And then in December, 2 months later, knocked over and killed a young girl. 3 massive, massive occurrences in 1 year. And what did I do? I went and I partied hard. And then met my ex-husband. And guess what? like the typical way in which we've all been, conditioned is like, I've just got to, for me specifically, I've got to find the man who's going to love me, not realizing how deeply traumatized. So I'm not surprised, to be honest, that I was such a control freak and such a perfectionist and such a clean freak. I'm not surprised that my ex-husband decided to find somebody else, because I was hard work, and everything had to be like on time and everything had to be a specific way, not knowing that it was a trauma response. The more controlled my world was, the better I felt. But it was just, I was deeply traumatized at the time. And he proposed to me. I mean, we met on the 25th of December, 1998, and 2.5 months later, he proposed to me. So I was like, oh my God, he's going to rescue me. He's going to fix me. He's going to be the guy. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how that I needed to feed my soul. I was so lost as a young woman, and I always thought that somebody else was going to give me what I didn't know that I actually had inside of me. Does it make sense the way I just said it?
Yes.
Because we all have it inside of ourselves, but the learning is, as little girls, you're my best friend, and then you're going to fight with me, and then I don't like you, but somebody else is going to heal me, somebody else is going to fix me. But to go back to the way our human body is designed, we grow within 9 months. It's not like the universe is going, or source or God is going, boom, there we are. And the brilliance of that is millions of sperm, but one sperm is chosen with that egg. And may I say, one egg, millions of sperm. You know where I'm going with that, eh? Get out the way, guys, get out the way. But look at the brilliance of how we are created. And that's the power, the innate power that we all have. And I'm not undermining anybody, because our journeys can be tough. And I know with working with grief and trauma, I've seen so much, I've heard so much. And but when we're in that innate wisdom of pure kindness and compassion, we only see the person as the wholeness, and not the deeply traumatized person that we are led to believe, or the way we've been conditioned. Because some people's journeys, I don't know what you've experienced, Michael, but I most certainly have heard a lot and experienced a lot with a lot of clients. And sometimes I'm like, wow, why did they choose that journey? And then I realize it's not me, it's not my place to ask that. But sometimes there's, every now and again, one client really hits home here, where I'm like, wow, how can I help that person? Why did they choose this journey? And then I sort of have to shift back into my space of, it's not your place to question this, Michelle, because sometimes a soul's journey is a soul's journey, and discernment is key, because I am, and I'm still learning this, I am a natural rescuer. Like, can I help you? Can I help you? And I've realized that that's not helping the person on their journey, So I will say to anybody, we'll bring people into our space at the right time. Like I brought this beautiful person into my space, a facilitator, when I was on this hospice weekend. And she wasn't easy, man. She pushed my buttons. I'm going to take that back. There were triggers inside of me that were there, and they were long-standing. But she most certainly knew exactly how to tweak them and to really get me, because she saw me in a different way, not the personality of Michelle, not the way that I was in this teenagey moment, or my 3-year-old having a tantrum. She'd say, get it out, Michelle, get it out, come on, let's help you evolve. But I knew that if I look back, my guides had already, the guidance was there. I just needed the wake up. And the
They
wake
found
up
you the
was,
perfect person to polish your edges, to give you some outlet, some steam, to let that steam out. If I can I blow some sage early on the show your way? And
for it.
people have done this, hopefully with the other shows. I do this on every show. I light some sage, and no matter where you are, and even if this is years later, it's 2027, and you're watching Michelle Carpenter in New Zealand right now talk with Michael Ford on angels, positivity, and love. And she's had some, I can't use the word amazing, but incredibly in-depth experiences that allow her to have a foundation to handle grief and trauma, which is no easy setup ever. Grief and trauma is grief and trauma, very distinct vibration, but you're able to handle more now without it getting onto you, and in a way that allows the
Yes,
person to free up so they can get going living
yes,
their life. I just saw a white light here as I said that. So catch the sage
beautiful.
wherever you are, breathe, breathe, breathe. I always say leave your mouth a millimeter open. And for anybody out there that wants to do extra, ask it to be more angel light sweeping around you, like around the back of your head, your neck. Feel
Mm,
lighter and feel relief
mm.
so that it can't just be plant medicine here, sage. Yes, and I love seeing Michelle sparkle and smile. This is good. And I'm going to put this away. I dropped a sage stick. Hold on. It's what I use to put it out so I don't smoke myself out here.
So
So
can I share something while you are just about grief and trauma? I used to
please,
sit so much in my emotions and my emotional body. And that's why I talk about being a sponge but being squeezed, because I had no idea. And I'd met somebody along my way, another medium, another channel. And he used to channel what was called the Chinaman, and this beautiful little guy, and he would almost write when he was talking, when he was tuning in, and he had a little accent. And this is a friend of mine who's a Kiwi, and this channel said to me, the Chinaman said to me, you sit in your emotions. And I didn't understand what that meant, but I did. I used to sit in my emotions and just cry my eyes out and be like, oh my God, like how can I just, what, why? But I'd question myself. Why? The big question, why? And even if you look at the why, in the letter, it's a funnel. It's a funnel. So we've got to funnel those emotions. And the
it's a
more
peace symbol.
yes, yes. And it's at the freaking end of the alphabet. So I felt like I had to go from A, B, C, D, E, F, G to get through all those emotions in my body to get to the why. And that's the funnel. It's like, alrighty, I'm at the end. And it really, every now and again, when I'm even working with spirit, with loved ones that come through, they will cry through me. But I sort of, when I'm done in a session, it's like, okay, wow, I'm not in my deep funk anymore. And that's the beauty of working through our grief and trauma. The more that we are, because a lot of empaths, and this might sound quite gentle. Oh, actually, maybe it is gentle. I was going to say judgmental, but I love gentle actually. A lot of empaths will say, I feel everybody's stuff. And my question always is, well, do you know what yours is? And I didn't know that was, because I was also one of those, I feel everybody's stuff, and I'd say, but I still didn't realize what was mine, what were my triggers. But the beauty of when we let go of so much of the grief and trauma that we've sat with in our bodies is that we just become this open expression of wonderment, this openness of love and light. And I still get triggered by spirituality. I just want to share that too. Because sometimes I'm like, really, guys? Really? Do you know what it's like being human? And they're like, yep, Michelle, we do. So it really is a learning. And as we evolve, the anger is not so much there anymore, because the anger is an underlying grief and trauma. And we carry
Is
the
anger a call to action, almost a reminder to do something about it?
Yes, I think that's actually a great statement. And when we are being triggered by somebody, there's a reflection. It's not about that person. There's an emotion, there's a feeling that needs to be surpassed. So, yep, it's a call to action. Like, what are you going to do about it?
So
But
what happens if you go to a business meeting or you had social interactions, people in a group degrade you in front of others? The others are like, oh my God, that's so degrading. And is this an opportunity to just remove yourself from the situation, what Eckhart Tolle talks about, to either address it at the time, remove yourself from the situation? I think there were some other options in there, but the point is, don't just let it be repetitive behavior happening to you and then get more frustrated or upset. Or you're supposed to be more aware of where you're putting yourself and figure out what lessons are in there for you for your growth. Yes?
yes, all of the above. So for
Okay.
me, I've come to learn that my team, my spirit team, I'll say to them, hey guys, it's like I want to say, you found me, ha ha ha. Thanks,
Yeah.
Michael. But, you know, I've said to my team, I want to, like, how can I experience life more? How can I share my story more? And I know that when I used to share my story, I know that my story can trigger other people. There's no doubt, because if a person's been sexually abused and they have even suppressed it without even realizing that there's work to be done. Yep, if you go to a business meeting and you're standing there and somebody, you know, decides that they want to critique you or share something about you that they might have not liked, when we're in, I believe, a discernment, a space of discernment or a space of observation, the wiser, the higher self, it's kind of like, thank you very much, I appreciate your feedback. But when we become, or let's say we walk away, and I would say we walk into our human self, you know, which sometimes it can feel like a clunk. It's like a heaviness, you know, and then we start to go into the monkey mind, like, oh, that person said that, really? Like, who the hell do they think they are?
Exactly. The monkey
You know,
mind is big.
like, really? And I say, like, I want to throat punch you. Like, who the hell do you think you are? But the reality is that it was coming into our space to help us to heal, to help me to heal. Because again, we ask for brutal honesty in the business meeting. We ask to be critiqued, but then we interpret it in a different way, because we all observe things. We all have different ways of the way we interpret it. But I'm always of the opinion, what was the feeling? What was the feeling? Because if we can shift that feeling, if we can say, oh, there's a feeling of, oh, there. Breathe it out like you do with your sage. And you mentioned plant medicine. Plant medicine is phenomenal. You know, psilocybin, ayahuasca, iboga. But the reality is that the work is to be done after we've worked with plant medicine or ceremonial or ceremonies, retreats. The work is how we are interpreting life, working through life on a daily basis. That for me is where we build resilience and we build our strength.
Mm. So did you cut the sage just to make sure the audience watching, because we did it before the show and we've done it previously. So you and I were moving ahead faster than what the audience might have appreciated. You caught the sage just earlier when I was blowing you the smoke through two screens. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And if we'll digress for 2 seconds, I'm going to bring up Dull Knife and Geronimo. We're going to go right back to the train of conversation that we're having. These are historical photographs, unconditional love spirit guides. She's met them before. I'll throw in one angel, but if you could have them bring in a different smell, not sage, it could be floral, cedar, sweetgrass. That my fingers covered.
Jasmine. I get
So
jasmine.
catch it in the air, and then waft it around a little, and let it really soothe you. And anyone at home, if they like jasmine, bring it in, or if you want a floral smell, have that as well. And for those who are on the fence a little bit, they're like, okay, what's going on? Ask for a word to be spoken to you. This is an angel named Joy and two Native American chiefs, unconditional love. Hear a single word. And Michelle, if you don't mind, what's the word you're hearing from all three right now?
Truth.
Ooh, nice. Okay, so back onto the life.
I love you.
Here.
Woo.
Exactly. Now, you've had, if we had to do a bingo card, a checklist, or some sort of a contest to see who could lift the most, you've had a lot of heavy lifting happen in your life. Now, it served its purpose. You had to pay attention more. You had to slow down more. You had to reorient how you're flowing your energy, how you weren't flowing your energy, where you were blocking on purpose. And life is meant to be lived. Love. I'm going to quote Mother Teresa again. What's going on today? Love not shared is not love, something like that. So the point of it is, if you're not sharing it, you're not loving. So, and that's first to yourself. You got to love yourself. And that's where the whole thing starts. It's like the flashlight. If it doesn't have any batteries, you ain't getting a beam out of it. So your batteries, you had to learn to get those fixed right so they weren't fizzly and doing a lot of stuff. Talk to us more about like what's evolved out of that for your weekly, daily, monthly practices. What do you still try to remember? What do you have down? And what could be applicable to some of the viewers that they could start incorporating into their life, especially if they've had childhood trauma, work trauma? You know, they got injured, they were an athlete, that's how they identified, but they're no longer on the professional circuit. They're just done. Their career's over. And they're like, oh, you know, we all have a million scenarios that we kind of fling. We don't view it as we did it to ourselves. But often we bring it in for whatever reason. It's perfect for our own healing, our own wholeness. Talk to us more about how we can take steps daily, weekly, monthly. What are you using as you go forward now on your path?
Trusting, my knowing. I still have self-doubt, but what I do is every morning I wake up and I go into a space of gratitude. I thank my bed, I thank my pillow, I thank my beautiful three-legged dog sleeps in the bedroom with us. I thank my husband for not snoring. No, he doesn't snore, I'm just joking. But I just thank, like when I have a shower, I thank the hot water. I thank the water that comes out of the tap. You know, these are moments. And even if because one thing I've learned is that in my grumpiness of working through my trauma, when I've woken up feeling heavy, let's say I haven't had a good night's sleep, the interesting thing is, and I'll give an example, a very recent example. Last week, the place I go and work in, Queenstown, which is beautiful, it's a beautiful space, beautiful big mountains, and they hold massive amounts of energy. And the one mountain's called the Remarkables, and it is a remarkable space. But you know, over the time of me working with bigger groups, the one thing that kept being shown to me, and people would come into my space and say, "Oh my goodness, you must feel so heavy after events." And I've realized that by looking after myself, nourishing myself, nurturing myself, which hasn't been easy, with the space of being in gratitude, the nourishment and nurturing was where I've had to learn to receive support. And it has been a learning. It's been a massive learning. And I'm going to throw you under the bus or bring you into this, is where, when we first connected 3-4 weeks ago, I was really, really fatigued. And, I had you on Keeping It Real and I interviewed you, but I was really starting to feel my body just, I wouldn't say my life force, but my battery was getting quite flat. Now, the people pleaser in me, because we were going to reconnect and then we didn't, and I think I still shared a message with you saying, look, I'm really just flat at the moment. But then you gave back to me. And that was a beautiful space to even allow. Because normally I'd be like, no, this is Michael Ford. Like, how can I allow this, And you did. You graciously gave of your energy and your time to me. And that's part of the nourishment that I've learned, the nourishment of, I love food, okay, and I love all kinds of food, and I'm learning to, again, wake up in the morning and I'll give myself, there's a beautiful little mixer that I have before I have a coffee, which is a powder which has got beautiful organic dried fruit in it and spirulina and all that, so I have that first. Again, my first glass of water, that along with the strength that I have, the nourishment that I have, I bless it and I thank it and I say thank you for giving back to my body. I still work on myself in terms of working with plant medicine every now and again. I have a beautiful shaman. I recently did ayahuasca, and ayahuasca's like, blah, just bring it, man. And I purged a huge amount. So my work is continuous on myself. I learned to walk slower. Coming from Johannesburg, coming from a trauma response, everything had to be done quickly. And I know when I'm in an overwhelmed state or space, like I leave little landmines everywhere, which drives my husband mad. And I literally leave like little pockets of everything. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this room and I'm going to clean that room. And then I have to literally talk to myself and say, Michelle, do one thing at a time. Fold the washing first. Put washing on, So it really is a continuous learning in my cycle and going back to the events that I had. Interesting enough, I hardly slept last week. I was alert, I was alive, I was awake. And I didn't wake up feeling heavy. And that's been the learning, is the lighter we eat, even though I love my food, I listen to my body. What do I really feel like? I have pizzas, I love meat. But I've also learned to not eat too much of everything. It's like feeding. If I'm going through an emotional or a stressed out phase, if I eat, my little girl, my inner child, loves sugar, loves it. But then I'll treat her to a carrot cake. I'll go and have a cup of coffee and I'll say, okay, sweetheart, I'm treating you to this. Enjoy it. Have you ever watched kids eat cake or ice cream, Michael? They love it and they don't care if it gets all over their face, you know, and that's what I do. I don't get all over my face, but I treat myself. This is something that I've had to learn over many, many years of being completely hard on myself. I had a skiing accident a few years ago, hurt my right knee, went for 1 or 2 physio sessions. I'm done. That wasn't good because I was off balance. And as you know, everything is interconnected into the body. So learning to slow down, learning to eat nourishment, give your body nourishing foods. Again, I eat pretty much everything, but I thank the food. I bless the food. I say thank you to I eat organically as best as I can. New Zealand's kind of a small country and it's a very expensive country to live in, but we're very blessed that we have neighbors up the road who pick off their fruit trees and then they sell it on the side of the road. They have what's called the honesty box. So I give myself the best nourishment I can, and nourishment is in all different circles, but the continuous work is working with my thoughts and working with the feelings. I still have moments, like I mentioned earlier on, that I want to throat punch people, that I get annoyed with people, and I just like, what were you thinking? But then I've got to look at that reflection and say, well, what was I thinking? How come I've brought this into my space? I'm feeling a little bit low in my vibration. But at night, same thing. I go to sleep, and as I'm lying there, I say thank you to my pillows, thank you to the warm blankets. I'm so grateful to have the warm blankets that I have. I love to give back. You know, if we go to a restaurant and we have an extra amount of food, I will say to my husband, let's go and find a homeless person. And I love to teach my kids that. Let's give back. How can we be of service? So for me, giving back is smiling at the barista, connecting with the barista and saying, thank you for this delicious coffee, you know, and because I've seen it. I've seen when I'm in a grumpy space, either my coffee's too hot or it doesn't taste nice, or, you know, and I'm like, oh, thank you very much. But it doesn't serve any of us to be like that. But then I've got to ask myself, what am I grumpy about? Because you know what the interesting thing about working through trauma is? The subconscious is 95% of us, it's running through us. It's an old feeling that more than likely happened between the ages of 0 and 7. So I might have woken up grumpy, feeling grumpy, but it's an old feeling, and it might or not be my feeling. I might have a voice or an interpretation, or like the grumpiness of like, that waiter or that person didn't serve me. And then I say, oh, my soul, I've just sounded like my mother, or I've just sounded like my father. And then I have to say, okay, Michelle, reel it back in. Big breath. And I do. I love to dance, so I love to shake it off. And that for me is all part of the nourishment. It's not one thing, Mike. It's like a whole bunch of things. You know, we work physically sometimes. You love to run. So I love to walk because my knees aren't able to take me on a run. But I love to walk, and sometimes I walk fast, you know. And then if I've had a day or a moment where I'm just like, oh, that person annoyed me, or my husband annoyed me, or I felt triggered, or and even in that, I'm going to shift that, because nobody annoys me. It's my feeling, because that's blame, that's projection. And then I go and I just shake it off, and I'm like, got to get this out of my body. The biggest thing is working through our grief, working through our trauma, working through our losses. We've got to get it out. You bring us back to our breath, which is great. But we've got to get it out, got to get it out. And the interesting thing is, over the time of working on myself, going for acupuncture, going to physiotherapists, chiropractors, massages, having beautiful baths, going for cold dips in the ocean and the lakes, is that, you know, you bring yourself back to a space of wholeness. And I know when I'm feeling triggered or annoyed, because I can feel it in my liver energy. And that's what happens, is the more light-bodied we become, the more joyful we become, the more we become authentic, the more we become expressive in ourselves, where it's like, I learned to laugh at myself. I'm like, my kids laugh at me. I go, like you shared a joke earlier, and I was like, okay, hold on, I'm not getting this. I'm a great person to have in a group, because I'll laugh probably 5 minutes or 10 minutes later because I've got the joke. But you learn to laugh at yourself. You learn to just laugh at life more, where you're just like, oh my God, it's actually not such a big deal.
We better tell one of those jokes just real fast for the audience here. Where in a hospital is the worst place to play hide and seek? Where? In the ICU. So I did want to ask, if we went down a checklist of, everyone can be super sensitive. For some, it's only on the pitch, the soccer field. For others, it's only in the workplace. They're such a good salesperson. They get yeses all the time. They just know how to make it rain, but they don't realize that that'll apply to their relationships and other parts of their lives. They compartmentalize. And so we're all wide open in a way. It may only be the mystery book that they settle down with on the weekends and cuddle up in the corner and they feel like they're part of the book. But they all have these skills: artistic, musician, this, that, just working in your garden. Time flies. You're having fun. So what I wanted to ask is, if we did a little checklist, you see auras on folks back in the day. Did you have that before all the hiccups, all the life experiences, all the drama, or was that something that after you opened up more that you picked up on? When did the aura seeing kick in?
Definitely in the later years. The last 3.5, 4 years of my life, I still am working through, and you are helping me with this, so thank you. I'm still working, I can see vibration. I am not somebody who sees color as yet. Sometimes I do when I want to say when I'm really tuned in, but sometimes I just see this light that's just above a person, but I don't see colors as such. Whereas I know some of my friends, and I don't know if you're similar, but they'll see a color of an aura. Now, funny enough, true story. First of all, I cleared a wedding table in discussing my victimhood, okay? Literally cleared a wedding table. Hi, Michelle, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Blah, 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 blah. And that was me stuck in my drama. I wanted somebody to just say, oh, what an arsehole of a human my ex-husband was. But he is not. He's a beautiful person. And it was written in the stars, as to say, in my story, okay? The second thing is, I thought I was doing really well in my auric self, and I thought that I'd cleared so much. And I met a woman, a beautiful friend of mine who lives in New Zealand, and she's 73 years old, and she trained with I think Tony Stanstead or something in the UK. And she looked at me and she goes, darling, you are so false with yourself right now. And I was like, what? And I really took umbrance to this. And she goes, your aura is so dark. And we call Mary the Queen because she really is. She just owns her stuff. She's just beautiful. And I was devastated because in my improvement on myself, I thought I had the most spectacular auric field. Nah, I didn't. I was still very much stuck in my grumpiness. And that's when coming to New Zealand, which, interesting enough, once again was a part of our course. My husband had gone to Canada, and we thought we were going to Canada, but we weren't meant to go to Canada. We were meant to come to New Zealand. So when we got to New Zealand, that was a real deep dive on a different level of really getting through a lot of my grief and trauma. And that is when I started to just bring other people, teachers, mentors into my space, and I learned a modality called integrative quantum medicine, where I learned that there's more. I learned more about, extraterrestrials and about different beings that are out there. And so to go back to the aura, I just see vibration. That's what my sense is, and I can just feel when somebody's in a low vibration. I'm learning to not take it on, especially when I'm in a social environment. Sometimes I get a little bit discombobulated in a social environment, and I have to breathe myself into my body because I can just pick up on things. And I can tune in very quickly, but I've learned...
That was the next question. That was the next question, is when you go to a library, a bookstore, a social place, maybe you just bump shoulders with someone at the supermarket. Are you picking up on energies a lot?
100%. But I've learned and I've taught myself that it's none of my business. So, as an example, I would go to I've had to learn to really just bring myself back, you know. And I don't like to make things so rigid, you know, because often I think on our spiritual journeys, there's almost like a finger pointing, don't do this, don't do that, da, 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 da. And I think there's so many belief systems that resonate with a lot of us, but also do not resonate. So I always would say to anybody, you know, ask your guides, ask your team, you know, does this resonate with me? But yes, I've learned to, when I'm in a trolley, when I'm holding a trolley, and I can literally just pick up on things, and I'll say, okay, Michelle, bring yourself back. None of your business. That person hasn't asked, and they're not a client, because I'll go to a social setting and people say, oh, Michelle, just pick up on that person right there. And I'm like, no, I'm here right now. I'm here to have fun. So for me, I've been self-taught in a lot of my own ways, and even with loved ones that are passing over, I've had a moment where a friend of mine's ex-husband was passing over, and I said, oh, come to me, you know, when you leave. Well, 4:30 in the morning is not a great idea, is it? Because I just got woken up out of my body, because we're out there in the field at night. And then I was like, okay, not a good idea. Just everything happens, and that divine timing is something that I'm most certainly still learning, because I believe that I've been incredibly impatient in life. You too, maybe. Most of us are. We want to get it, we want to get it. But in divine timing, it happens in divine timing, and our energetic body just knows. So yes, it's still a learning for me, where we may be in a social environment and something would just shoot out of my mouth, and I'd think, I wasn't thinking that. Like, who said that? Who said that? You know, and then and I like to make fun of it, because sometimes I might have been thinking it, might have come out. Sometimes my filter system doesn't work, but you know, it is all a learning. And I just say, okay, Michelle, just bring yourself back, and I just start to breathe in a light from the inside of my core, and I just start to fill myself up. But it's, you know, I don't want to become a hermit. I love being sociable, but I'm very much learning that when I'm giving out in a social environment, because we just connect into everybody's energetic fields, and then just bring yourself back, you know. So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's just my learning, my interpretation of it.
I like to try to describe it. I don't think I've said this on the show, but if there's a global slipstream of unconsciousness, when we're doing a lot of thinking, a lot of words, a lot of structure, I'm not trying to take away from, you know, if there's 8 billion people, there's a lot of ways people roll, there's a lot of thought forms, but a lot of it's just unconsciousness. It's not necessary. It could be considered a waste of energy, especially if it's the lower vibration stuff, judging, shame, worry, fear, you know, again, judgment. But there's love as a constant. And that's easy to forget. That's easy to, you know, get caught up here and stuff, and to not slow down and just be here. And what I'm trying to say is, like, if I was at a bookstore, I still remember this in Austin. I remember there's like my time. I want to go look at books. I got a couple different areas. I don't mind being in those stacks, and I'm looking at a particular area of a topic. And then I pick up on someone, and I get kind of a doorbell ring. I'm like supposed to help them. And I'm like, I really don't want to help them right now. I'm in the middle of looking at these books. And so I'll shift and go pick a different topic. Like, I'll make it up, romance novels or something, which is not what I'm going to go look at. But I go over to the romance novel section, that person shows up again. And I've found that I usually get 3 tries at a person. Like, the worst that'll happen is I run into them then at the parking lot. And at that point, I've usually come around and like, okay, I'm supposed to pay attention. I'm supposed to help this person. Then there's the challenge of, how do you even bridge with a complete stranger? How are you going to end up, you know, hi, what a lovely day it is. Or they say, hey, I used to drive a really old BMW. But then the person would say, hey, you've got this really old BMW, and I don't even know my year of it, 95 back then. But my point of this is, there's a lot of angels out there on their team, your team. And can you imagine from their perspective how much work is involved to get you to that bookstore? You could have been at that bookstore 3 prior times, same thing with them, but you never even got into the same quadrant of the bookstore to see each other. So there's a lot of pushing going on without interfering. Picture the husband and wife that met each other at the corner, high school, college, work. They bumped into each other, knocked each other's folders into the air. And it's the Reese's peanut butter cup commercial. Your chocolate got in my peanut butter. Your peanut butter got in my chocolate. Hi, my name's Sarah. My name's John, and happily ever after. Imagine how many angels were involved in that, how much effort. And it was written that they were supposed to meet, get married, and all the rest. So what I'm trying to say is there's a lot going on we'll never quite appreciate unless we get to hear and say, whoa, okay, take the words out and feel what we can feel. Can you talk to us a little bit more about, if love's a constant, good luck with that. You're lucky if twice a year, twice a month, twice a week, twice a day, you can remember to just take the load off of what we know. And then, of course, unconsciousness, we see it all the time. Turn on the TV, watch our own actions when we judge somebody we don't like, pick a group that, they're against free speech, they're for free speech. You can knock anybody these days, and we do. Talk to us a little bit more about love, compassion, kindness, gentleness, all the stuff here versus all the stuff up here, versus how can we get in touch more with our invisible cheerleading squad?
First of all, I just love your analogies and how you just bring these stories together. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to watch you.
Oh, well, hey, I got to mention the woman. I ended up helping her in the store. I didn't run into her in the parking lot that time. But I didn't know boundaries back then. So I would help people and I'd absorb a lot. They'd feel great and they'd get their answers. She had a teenage son pass over. And what I didn't realize is when they throw a hug on you to say thank you, I always viewed hugs in the old days as just a straight line, linear transaction. No. When you touch skin with someone, you can, if you're empathic, you can pick up their energies. And if you don't have good boundaries, that's going home with you. And then our fire alarms would go off in the house later when it built up. Or you'd have a peeping Tom, her passed over son, he's 50-50, nothing evil or anything, but just peeping Tom, lights going off, some messed up stuff in the kitchen that happened. We were like, whoa, angels, cleaning the house. And it was my responsibility to have better energy transactions, I guess, or to understand, don't be so open that you're lifting everything off of them and you're taking it on for yourself. You've got to have, send it away from you. So if you could talk to us about these energy dynamics, there's constant love, there's constant gentleness, sparkliness available. I don't want to make it sound glib, but there's also heaviness, and there's a lot of that. And we generate tons for ourselves. How do we balance this out? How do we handle being human, but the being part as well?
So I would highly, highly, highly recommend stop listening to the news. First and foremost. And, it's, for me, information comes to me and when I'm meant to hear it. And I'll give an example. I went for a swim in our local gym one day, and there was a beautiful sort of like little hot tub, and there were two pilots sitting, and I was listening to them talk about Turkey, and I was like, oh, Turkey, like you fly into Turkey? And he's like, yes. And I said, but Turkey's been devastated with the earthquakes. And he said to me, hardly. He said, it's interesting what they were putting out there. It's like they were gunning for the president or the prime minister or whoever he is, It was like, it's not to say that it didn't happen, it did. But, they got stuck on certain stories. And that's what happens, is those vibrations can most certainly pull us down, because that's head stuff. How much more can we affect human beings? So, yes, walking this journey of being human can be pretty disastrous at times. But I look at it as a moment in time, So even when we've gone through a loss, like I was really, really angry, but surfacely, like I kind of really suppressed it and showing my love and light self as being a medium. But I was really angry that I never had the choice to go back to South Africa to hold my mom's hand while she was passing over. And it might sound contradictory being a medium, because absolutely I can connect with her. But the reality is, as the daughter who was 50 years old, I so wanted to have that choice, but we had been mandated at that time. And I was so angry at the governments of the world that was my choice. And they had what felt like at the time, and they took away so many of our choices. And, at that moment where friends were saying to me, or loved ones saying, but, oh, Michelle, but you're a medium and you connect with spirit. And I'm like, no, that's me being human. That's me being a daughter who had a mother for 50 odd years and I just wanted to feel her hand. And that felt like it was, honestly, that moment in time was not allowed. So it's very much, I feel like a compass, like we've got to navigate. We've got to navigate ourselves, and we've got to navigate those emotions, those energy emotions, those feelings. And yes, when I'm out and about, absolutely, those synchronous moments happen. And if spirit really sort of nudged me, and I remember I was on a train once in Australia, in Sydney, and I could feel this spirit saying, Michelle, my husband's in front of you. It was this real older man, and she's like, please, he'd love to hear from me. And my fear in my head kicked in, and I was like, what happens if this old man has a heart attack? Because I'm like, excuse me. And I just said, thank you, but no thank you, because we do get to have the choice of, I believe, we do get to have the choice of saying, you know what, thank you guys, but no thank you. I'm actually on holiday. And I have had very, very few moments where I've been nudged and nudged and nudged, and I'll walk over to the person and I'll say, hi, my name's Michelle. I'm a medium, and I'd really like to ask if it's possible. I have a loved one that's here, and it's a grandfather or father, and they'd really like for me to give you a message. And I believe it's giving that person the option of deciding whether it's good or not for them. And I'll say to them, it's not personal. This is just somebody who's come through. And then it's really sort of on point, because I feel like a lot of times it can be quite ego-based. Like, hey, I've got a party trick, but I'll ask Spirit to give me the guidance if this feels really good in the energy of expressing what the message that needs to come through. When it comes to hugs, I have said it before, I love giving hugs, and even when I'm doing events, I will ask the person, is it okay? And I try and sort of set them up in the beginning, like when I'm talking to everybody in my communication, and just saying, look, the messages come through, and I'm the conduit, and guys, I'm a touchy-feely kind of person, so I will try my level best to ask permission from you, but I'm asking now as the group, is it okay if I come into your space? Because I know sometimes people are like, what? She's right here in front of me, and there are some people that it happened last week where I had actually asked them, I said, look, if you can just give me an acknowledgement of the messages that I'm a little bit on point. And sometimes people are like, yeah, in the moment, yeah, that sounds good. But as soon as you're standing in front of them, they're like, because it almost feels like not even about me, but the messages that are coming through are, oh, this is big, because they maybe haven't grieved that person that has passed over. And you could see in their eyes, wow, this is big. And then I'm just guided to put a hand on their knee or a hand on their shoulder. And I love to shower after I've worked through the day, or like I say, go for a dip in the ocean or go for a walk. But showering for me is the cleansing of the day, and where I just bring myself back into my heart space. Talking about love, it most certainly hasn't been a simple journey for me in this physical lifetime. And I'm still learning it. And I don't think that up until the day that I leave this physical body and this planet, I believe that it'll be a learning for me. And the learning is honestly to just hold space sometimes, because when I'm in my defensiveness, whew, man, I can be debating with you big time. When I'm in my headspace, the wall is up and I'm just like, bring it. And I can swear like a trooper, Michael, and it's not ideal, but it just is. And it's part of, how I was conditioned, and it's something that I'm still learning. But sometimes it's great to just say F-U-C-K off. like I want to give it. That's the human part. And I do in my sessions with clients. I'm like, I can feel the anger, and I'm gonna say it for you. Let's just get it out your body. And then sometimes I've had the most politest women. They go, oh my God, it feels so good. It feels so good to say the F-bomb word. And I'm like, I know, right? And apparently it helps. There's like 72 muscles in our face that move when we're saying it. But
I was running up a big hill, and I had an angel trying to encourage me to drop an F-bomb, but more just a, hey, F the behavior of someone else or a group of people, to help me process it through my system. And
Yeah.
so on a 1 to 10, my volume was turned way down. I'm on a hill, 12% grade. It's like a highway nearby. It's beautiful. There's no houses, nobody walking by. They're not going to hear me.
Yeah.
Got music playing, but I'm hearing the angel come in and they're trying to get me to like yell it. So the first
Yeah.
two tries, I'm at a 1 or a 2. The volume's all the way down. And I'm like, I'm laughing because I'm watching myself be really reticent about even saying it out loud. And then I got up
Yes.
to a 4 or 5. And finally, there was just this exasperation, like next run, I still haven't gotten to that point again where I'm supposed to yell it out and get it completely out. I mean, there's other ways to
Yes.
do it. A cold shower, the pool, there's
Yes.
other ways through
But
water.
it's a great expression. You know, there's
Yeah,
actually,
it
I think there's,
works.
yes, there's, and especially have you listened to some of the wonderful Indian gurus, Sadhguru, I think it is, or like, I don't even know if it's him, but there's something that I watched the once on YouTube, and in their accent, it was just like F this and F and fuck the day and fuck the, and I was like, oh my God, that just sounds so good. So sometimes it is. It's just an expression. It's not good. It's not bad. And I say cursing, and I think you guys say cussing. The Americans say cussing. Sometimes it's just like, don't you just want to frickin' just say it because somebody was just a right real damn blah 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 in that moment, And it's just like, whew, okay, right, moment passed. But it's how we bring ourselves back. And as an example last week, so talking about love, when we stay in the expression of our loving, kind, compassionate self, it's when we can get caught up in the energy of the frenetic energy, going to an airport, a busy, busy airport. So when I was flying out of Queenstown last week, and these are the examples of having the different space and the different energy. When we step into a space of compassion, it's really bringing ourselves back and saying, wow, I wonder how that person is feeling right now in this moment. And we may never know. It could be an assumption in that moment. But I have posters that I travel with, and I've got this big cylindrical little thing, big thing, and that needs to go into, it doesn't go through with the normal baggage. But here at our local airport, it's a small town. The woman was so kind. I was traveling early morning. She's like, don't worry, I've got it. And she printed out the sticker, went and she carried it to the overload or the oversized baggage for me. Coming back, we fly through an international airport, and the gentleman kept saying, have you checked it in? I said, yes, I've checked in my 2 bags. And he's like, yes, but you need to check it in. And he was being very forceful because he's now obviously, he's got a lot of clients and people that he's got to help. And I just stayed in my truth. I stayed in that space of, we could call it love, we could call it divine, we could call it compassion. I stayed because as soon as we get triggered, I believe we're throwing our energy at that person, and that energy is going to go da 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 da. And what's the point? So I just was like, I just stayed, and I was like, yep, I hear what you're saying, but I've checked my 2 bags in. And I could feel like a little moment of, okay, Michelle, you're going to start getting triggered, but what's the point? You're not doing this guy's job. You're just wanting to get onto the plane. So I said to him, well, in my hometown in Nelson, this is what the lady did. So what, could you help me? Is it possible? And you could see he was just very in his head, a little bit like perplexed by, the fact that I'm not doing. And I just said, thank you so much for your help. I'm really, really appreciative, and he softened in that moment. Because if I had said to him, are you having a nice day? Are you? Thank you so much for your help. But do you hear how I'm saying it differently? But I just stayed, and I was like, okay, I'm feeling a bit triggered. I can feel the energy is a little bit off right now. It's okay, because I'm obviously picking up on a lot because the airport's busy, busy, busy. And I could feel a little part of myself, because this used to be our hometown, in my head going, oh, I'm so glad we don't live here anymore because it's so busy. And I'm like, no, Michelle, no, that's a judgment. Just bring yourself back. So it's those moments. It's almost like we've got to bring ourselves back into our harmonious space. And he was quite happy. And even when he was putting the tag on, I said, thank you so much. And he had shifted, and I said, thank you. Have a great day. I'm really appreciative for your help. So one thing I want to say is, for me, we all want to be appreciated in love, in life, with our partnerships, in our relationships, in our friendships, and we all want to be acknowledged. We don't have to be acknowledged all the time, but we all want to be acknowledged. And that's what I did. I felt like the giving of that energy, because that guy was was helping me. And I could have gotten into that space and been like, yep, well, where do you want me to go? Blah, 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 blah. But I just stayed. I stayed in a space of calm, which for me, the space of calm, because I don't know about you, but do your angels ever come across and go, Michael, like, what the hell are you doing today, buddy? You know, like,
I
I'm
had
going to throw a few.
Geronimo. I
I'm
sometimes have
sure
to,
he does.
yeah, I had to
He's got a
hear,
very stern face.
yeah, I've got to sometimes hear stuff like 1,000 times, 100 times just to let it sink in. So I think
Me
I
too.
asked about a month ago, and I've said this on a couple shows, but it's a good one. Am I a good manifester? I asked, and I heard sweet Jesus, Mike. Yes. And, he's doing this, and so I love what you said about validating others through kindness, compassion, patience, being in your own space, staying out of here as much as possible, but also the feel what you feel, do not judge. And that's just letting it maybe go through you and keep going instead of stopping that flow of outside energy and letting it ricochet around and cause a lot more damage. Battle damage. If it's a tank, that shell comes in and rattles around and it's ugly inside the turret. That's a bad example. But
Yes,
let me
yes.
bring you an angel real fast, and they can bring up a topic. You and I have done this before, so this isn't a shock to you. I have photos of angels. If you're just watching the show for the very first time, this is Michelle Carpenter in New Zealand. We are so fantastically blessed to have her on the show. She's from South Africa originally, healer, incredibly talented. I think she's still only scraping the surface of immense talent now, but wait and see as she unfolds more and does books or something like that down the road. Here's Joy, an angel who's the emotion Joy. If you want to feel her as you're also hearing something, get reminded of something to share with us all, because you're on a roll today, Michelle, and thank you for sharing so much with us.
Thank you. So what comes to mind right now, and it's so interesting how, and beautifully aligned we are, because I was like, I want to share something for the times that we're in. Now, for me, there's this ripple effect that's happening, as I shared with you about my mother passing over 1.5 years ago, in the mandates, in COVID. There's this sort of really subtle tidal wave that's still happening from a lot of people, and we know COVID is still most certainly here in New Zealand. People are still in that space where I had, when I was not feeling myself a few weeks ago, my body was quite low, and again, part of the nourishment, and I had a little bit of, I think, a snotty nose or sore throat, and I saw friends, and they were like, do you have COVID? And I said, don't you miss the days where we just had a sore throat or a snotty nose or an earache? And her husband got so annoyed, and as I was like, no, I don't bring that into my space. But having said that, when COVID happened, 2020, I was actually in South Africa, and my mom had dementia and Alzheimer's, and I was being told and shown by friends in New Zealand, Michelle, you need to get back, because I didn't have citizenship at the time. We're a permanent resident on a South African passport. Mish, you got to get back to New Zealand because the borders are closing. I really had to change my ticket because we fly from Johannesburg to Australia normally. It's the shortest journey to New Zealand. But I really had to change my ticket because we weren't allowed to go through Australia. And, you know, I don't know if you were in any of the airports or traveling at the time, but it was chaos. It was just chaos. Everybody wanting to get back home, get back to their countries. And Johannesburg's a massive, massive international airport. And I managed to get through. There was a bit of a panic where they had to phone the New Zealand immigration, because being on a South African passport, do I have permanent residency? They had to check in. So I'm standing there, my baggage, standing at the counter, and I'm like, oh my God, am I going to see my family? And my husband kept saying to me, we call each other Bunny, and he said, Bunny, just visualize landing in Queenstown. Just visualize you land, meeting us at the airport. So I went, okay, bring myself back, okay. Got through, and then we're going through customs, and again, chaos. And I have this beautiful book called Awesomeism, and it's about autistic children and working with autistic children. So one of my guides, one of my angels said to me, pull it out and start to smile. Now, we're obviously snaking in the customs. And I pull it out and I start to read a little bit, and then I look up and I just got shown smile at one person. Because now it's crazy times, you know, everybody's in fear. and people have got masks on. I'm just seeing things that just don't make sense to me. A family, a mother and father with masks, but 3 children that don't have masks. And I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Smile, Michelle, just smile. So I'm standing there, I'm going, really? Really? You want me to smile? Hey, do you see the energy that we're in, guys? Like, I'm literally talking to myself and them like this. And then I caught one gentleman's attention, an older gentleman, and he's coming this way and I'm going this way. And I'm like, and he starts to smile. And then you could see him, and then he's like trying to check me out, like, okay, where is she? You know, and then another person and another person. And you could see we just started to connect. And there were very few of us that started to connect. But the vibration inside of me, inside of them, we started to giggle. We started to laugh, like, oh my God, like, look at this craziness. Ha ha ha. And it's probably we were off our trees, but it so lifted me in sharing those little moments with those people. And sometimes I don't read the signs. I want to be very clear. Sometimes my husband's like, read the room, bunny. And I'm like, what do you mean? You know, he's like, yeah, because I'm just in my own space. And that's where, again, I'm learning discernment. Because sometimes when somebody's in a grumpy space or a effed off space or a pissed off space, you know, if you're going, just smile and wave, and they're like, oh my, I want to slap you right now, chick. Do you realize I just want to slap you? So, but in that space, in that moment of time, that smiling just brought a different sensation to different people. And it was really cute. It's like we became these playful kids, you know, just kind of checking each other out in that snaking. And by the time we knew it, we got to customs and we went through and got onto our planes. And I felt lighter in just connecting with those different individuals, complete strangers. And even going back to your story of being in the library, that's how they guide us, you know. And I've had to learn over time, because I have to be honest, I really fought spirituality. I really fought knowing that there was more. I was really happy in my grumpiness of being human and in my emotional state and my emotional body and my trauma. I was like, this is my story. And I'm just going to stick to my story. And then they brought in my beautiful friend, Jill Cole. And Jill connects with the Galactic Federation of Light. I was like, what? And Jill's got the most fascinating stories to share. And I literally used to drive with her in the car and think, what? Who is she? What is she, Betty? But that's what my guides were doing for me before I started channeling the Council of Eight. Jill was so ascended. I was very much in my physical body. And they brought us together because, in my opinion, Jilly has learned to be more in her body, and she started working with her emotional body and her emotional self and, you know, her feelings and her heart space. Because she was so out there. Some of us can be so out there that, again, we don't read the room. And that's where our guides, our teams, they just get it. And they work on our behalf. And, you know, I have and this is what my beautiful friend shared with me one day in South Africa. Mish, get out of your own way. And I didn't understand that statement until I understood it. When we get out of our own way, when we get out of this, life just happens for us, Mike. It doesn't happen to us. It happens for us. And I truly believe, and thank you for that that knowing, and I truly believe that that's part of my journey, is to build the bridge, because I know that when we tap into those innate gifts that we all have, again, I use the analogy of being a baby, we grew from this most magical wisdom, and one sperm chose the egg out of millions of sperms. We are so unique. We are so divine. Even when we do events, have you looked around the room and gone, not one person has the same fingerprint? That's amazing. And it's so vastly expansive of the universe in which we live that we're just tipping the edge of the ice. No, that's wrong to say. Do you know what I'm going? Like the tip of the iceberg is exactly that. And COVID happened for us. I mean, people like yourself, people like myself, people like beautiful Alex Ferrari, Jeff Mara. Look how many people are sharing their near-death experiences, their elevation of consciousness. I don't know if this would have happened if COVID hadn't happened for us to wake up to the fact that we're so empowered in ourselves. Because our belief systems, I think, have been so deeply ingrained that we've given away our power and given away our power and given away our power. And now it's like, actually, we are so individual. And the love consciousness is most certainly coming together. But as with anything in life, remember, there can be exposure, there can be extreme, there can be charlatans, there can be people that are wanting to create something out of desperation. And I always say to anybody that works, that allows me, I'm going to say that allows me to walk with them on their journey, guys, take what resonates and what doesn't resonate, even what I'm saying today. Take what resonates, and what doesn't resonate, just park it or say it's a load of BS. But your team will show you. My wake-up call, unfortunately or fortunately, doesn't matter how we choose to, or I choose to interpret it, my wake-up calls were there. They were given to me, they were given to me, they were given to me, but I just didn't know any different until, bless his cotton socks, my beautiful ex-husband decided that he needed to not be with me anymore. And I always used to describe it as, especially because my family values and my family was one of my I protected it. I really protected it. And I used to say it felt like a pit bull had grabbed me at the Achilles heel to bring me down. But it was a great wake-up call, because and guess what? I used to put it out there to the universe. Oh my God, I think I'm going to divorce this guy. I'm going to divorce this guy. So boring. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it happened for me. And perhaps I was the change bringer because my mom decided to do what she decided to do. She stayed with my dad, bless her. You know, my grandmother, her mother, stayed with her father, even though he had multiple affairs. And my parents fought me on it. They're like, you got to make this work. And I'm like, I don't want to stay with this dude. So the choices that I made, I believe, came with a lot of courage and a lot of braveness. My parents, because I wanted sole custody of my daughter, my parents were taking my ex-husband's side. It never got to court, but they had said to me they will take his side in court if it went to court, because they were so driven in wanting me to stay with him. And that's their need. So it came with a lot of courage for me to say, I'm doing this, guys. And that's what a lot of us are on our own journeys of courage. And we do things that are for us, of self-serving, not selfish. And sometimes it may not be what others want us to be or do or look like or behave in a way that they like. And we've got to step out of that and say, okay, well, this feels good for me. And when we're in that space, in that elevated space of love, kindness, compassion, there's no other, I want to say dimension, there's no other human that can take that away from us.
Yep.
And because you just can't. It's so beautiful. It's so contained. It's so ever-giving. But we've been led to believe the fairy tale, the fantasy, you know, this is what love's got to look like from all the movies that we watch. And again, it's not right or wrong. It's just a learning. Because when we're in our soulful space of absolute, absolute love, it just is. And that's the oneness. And I give an example of these plants here. There's 3 plants growing in one pot. And not one is going, hey, dude, I can't believe she planted us in one plot. I don't know why I get an accent. But I feel like that's how they speak to me. Like, what was she thinking? 3 of us. They're just growing, and now they're growing in harmony together. And the one's going, okay, I'll just grow out to create more space. But us as humans are like, how dare you? How dare you treat me like that? How dare you do that to me? But it's happening for us. Nothing ever happens to us unless we allow it to happen to us.
When we were talking COVID, I pulled up Gandhi's photo. I have Mother Teresa's as well. I'll put that up in a second. But I mean, COVID, this isn't going to be a great example. This isn't some big revelation, and everyone knows this. But COVID helped solidify Zoom so that face-to-face conversations can be considered almost more appropriate than just I don't do phone calls anymore. I do face-to-face videos. So I love that. Okay, so here's Gandhi for you. Unconditional love figure for everyone out there. And if you don't mind, Michelle, what do you have from Gandhi to share with us all? And if you don't mind getting a couple hugs and a private compliment, unless you want to share what the compliment is from Gandhi to you, and then back to the big picture for us.
So he brings through a symbol, and it's a symbol of togetherness. He's like showing me like the, you know, if I was to stand, like the physical body and the energetic body. And when we bring them together, it's strong. And he wants us to know that we all are pure. We all are divine, like that beautiful smile that he has. And he's once again just asking us to stay in our truth of divine light and love, because light only sees light. It doesn't see dark. And everything is of the light. And he wants to acknowledge you and thank you for all that you do.
One step at a time, and sometimes it's glacial and sometimes it's marathon or 5K pace. It just depends on the day. And that's where you don't judge the distance of the race, just see what they signed you up for. Or sometimes you get told to park it on the bench, like this last few weeks: pool, gardening, dogs, sun, fun, run, plants. Okay, Mother Teresa, great sense of humor. For those wanting to put their hand out through two screens, and even in the future, time and space isn't what we think it is. Put your hand out, feel a vibration. You back it up and play Gandhi again. Watch the whole show again and watch Michelle carefully. Feel and see her vibration on her. See the colors on her. You can let go the whole way if you want to let go anytime you want. Here's Mother Teresa, great sense of humor. And now you should be getting her full on.
Sure. Gosh, I actually get teary. Wow. So much love. It's like she's holding Mother Earth. And just giving. It's like she's just giving. She's just pouring out oodles and oodles and oodles of love. And she's showing me, this is cute, because considering you like movies.
I love movies. I'm a movie guy.
Kung Fu Panda. And remember where he's climbing up those stairs? There's like a whole bunch of stairs that he has to get up. I don't know if you can remember, and he had his little cart. I don't know why she's showing me stairs in his cart, and he like gets to the top. He's like, and she's showing me that it's worth the climb. We are all worth the climb.
I have another photo for Mary, Big Mary. Instead of the classic one, if you're from Ireland and you want the drawing with the heart on the chest, I can find that one as well. But I'll use this one for Mary. Think rainbow light, tight with angels. If we all had her trust and faith, there'd be no more need for fear or worry. But here's Mary, if you want to have just a quick chat. And anybody wanting smoothing out at home, ask to be smoothed out. Breathe extra through your mouth. Feel what you can feel. Don't judge. Feel a wind in the room that's exotic, like Pacific. And Michelle, did you get that okay?
Strength. Such a huge amount of strength. And if I may, I just want to grab, can you see this one here, this heart?
Yes.
So, oops, this is, I'm going to bring it closer. Hold on, I've got to hook myself. Hold on. Okay. So this is a kiwi fern. And the unraveling, and that's what she's showing, is we're all these bright colors. But some of us might want to be coiled and stay within, and some of us want to be, because it's beautiful, it's called the silver fern. But she just showed strength. We all have inner strength. And it's okay to either stay within, and it's also okay to let go and show the growth inside and outside.
And I've been looking at that the whole show. It's just, I can't help it. It was reflecting a lot. So that was pretty. Okay, Charlotte, everybody's favorite school teacher from childhood, with words meant to help you expand. Teacher like Angel. Charlotte's fantastic. If you happen to like ancient Egypt, ask her about ancient Egypt. But compassion, tough taskmaster for me in the first few years, doesn't mean I'm off the hook now either. Okay, what do you have from Charlotte? It might be private and stays private, or some part of it's public for us.
She's showing that, as you mentioned, Egypt, that Egypt is calling all of us. Many of us as light workers, star seeds, light walkers. Egypt is, it's kind of, we're all getting called to different lands. So many of us are going back within to the ancient times. And she's saying, watch, like, it's like we're calling it back, we're calling it in, but the lands are calling us in. And she's showing me the Sphinx in Egypt, how massive it is, and how, it's the lion, the time of the pride, the time of the lion. And we mustn't be scared of everything that is happening for humanity. It's time of change.
And I'll put my guardian angel up. It's a silhouette of an angel photograph. It's on my website if people went on their own time. You can ask for the smell of any ocean, get a hug, ask for an answer, listen. The point I'm going to try to make really fast is just the more you slow down, the more you get away from your own resistance. We could be talking the work stuff, relationship stuff, health, everything. The more you just get out of this and get to here, it's the two different cross currents, that slipstream of love, I got it, and the slipstream of unconsciousness up top, or just wasting energy or knowing stuff to the preclusion of possibility. We're all experts in that. Talk rugby, talk cricket, talk American football, anything. We know our team's the best. The other teams are all nah, but we don't win every year. So what do you do with it? We spend a lot of energy, a lot of stacks of poker chips in a lot of ways. And in the end, even our attitudes might change. 10 years later, I've moved and now I'm in Brisbane. I've got a whole different set of preferences that contradict the way I was 10 years earlier. And we never call ourselves out on that, luckily, because otherwise we beat ourselves up all over again. There's endless excuses to beat others up, beat ourselves up. The one thing you won't see on TV or Twitter is the word love, unconditional love, compassion, kindness, except for that lucky person out there who's mentioning it. But I mean, it's 1 out of a million tweets, or the news program. I mean, sometimes the local news will do something sweet. It's the puppy. But here's Min, just call her Min. It's a long name, Minwala. But actually, since we're talking where we are in the world, Uwala is a Polynesian morning glory. Sweet potato vine underneath the ground, sustenance. Morning glory vine, morning glory flowers up top. So I actually should mention it. Ua and La in Hawaiian. So I forget if it's rain, sun, rain. Her name is Water. That's Min, like Minnesota. Lakota Sioux, like Minnesota. So it's water, morning glory, water, rainbow. Just call her Min. But this one's fantastic. If you want to, again, catch the smell of the ocean, she's light waves of energy and water. Ask the next time you go to your pool, your shower, ocean, for a little extra something. It's up to you what you're going to allow for. I'm not here to tell anybody anything beyond what I've done today. And I love when Michelle talks about how she handles stuff. She's got a very fine, is it a balancing act between acting and holding back?
Thank you.
Yes. And yes, what do you have?
So this is a story, if I may share a story. And she's asking me to share this because it's quite prevalent to recent times, but also how it's interesting. It's kind of like she's showing me duality but dichotomy, and she's, and I don't know why I'm scratching, but it's kind of like a lot of us feel itchy and antsy in these moments, okay? And she's asked me to share a personal story about so with my travels, I was away and we had our first Airbnb clients. Last minute, I called my husband, they came in, and this woman was rushing for memorial service. Long story short, for some reason, because we've got a linen cupboard downstairs, it's got glass panels, and it has a light that's open, and this is how we, gosh, I'm just so itchy. It's kind of like she just wants to scratch and just say, like, a lot of us feel this way, like we just like, oh, we're like kind of antsy, like what's coming? And she's showing specifically with regards to America at the moment, a lot of fear in America, and I don't know what goes on politics-wise, so, but she says this is but politics. But she also wants to share how the flick of a switch, or how She asked me to continue. Okay. So we have a light, and it's a globe that was in our linen cupboard, and and it's, like I said, it's got blankets in that in, and my husband got woken up at 3:30 on Sunday morning, and he went into the kitchen, and he lives upstairs, and he's like, I can smell something, I can smell something. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently when we fast asleep, smell is something, that's why a lot of people in a fire burn to death, because they don't smell the smoke. And I could be wrong by sharing that, but somebody had shared that with me. And he went back to bed, and he's like, something is not right. So he went downstairs. And what actually happened was the guest from Airbnb had opened up because the light is automatic, when the door closes. And she had decided to open up the door because she wanted a light on in the passage. And there was a blanket, because it was an open globe. And there was an electric fault. And basically what had happened was it started to cinder. So he had he opened it up and managed to get the blankets out. But the beauty of that is that there was frenetic energy in our home. And this woman had lost a loved one, and she got to the memorial service late, and he just said it was just crazy. But he went into a trauma state and a trauma space. And she says this is why she wants to share the relevance of the story of how quickly things can happen, because our guides are always looking after us if we're open to listening, if we're open to being aware, if we're open to being awake. And she says a lot of people are waking up, but also want to remain asleep. So it's easier to just have the transition. She's saying like the transition of the frustration. And she goes, this will make sense to a lot of people. So she just wants to keep sharing. It's like, again, the like itchiness. People are feeling itchy. People are feeling antsy. But what's happening is the old traumas, the old feelings that have been so suppressed for such a long time, because this took my husband into a real old PTSD episode. But he stepped out of it and realized it. And it wasn't easy because
PTSD, family, military, corporate, personal, childhood, without getting into his details. But
all the above.
All the above. Wow.
Yeah. So interesting.
So
military's
zinged.
past life. Yes.
Yeah.
Military's past life stuff, and he knows this. He's come to realize like he's been in the military a lot of times. Like he stands, like he's like ready, and he doesn't like injustices. So COVID really hit him hard because it created obviously a ripple effect for so many people, for massive change. There was a lot of loss, a lot of devastation. Childhood, my husband's been involved in the apartheid era as a young teenager. When we were kids, we weren't. This is, and I feel it's important to mention this because I was on another podcast, and when I shared about me knocking over and killing a young girl, she was a young black lady, and
I just had a white ball of light go straight across right here, an angel. Wild. So sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, go. That's awesome. And people had questioned on this podcast in the comments, why wasn't I in jail? And let me guess, it was in the apartheid era. And I'm like, oh my God, you people know nothing, and apartheid affected a lot of us. It was Nelson Mandela went into prison for 27 years and came out a beautiful, beautiful man. But my husband was in a bombing. There was a landmine that was planted in a massive big trade show. And it was a part of this extreme government that was, the fighting that was happening. And that's the sad part, is that there's a divide that's been created for many, many years in all different countries, in so many different cultures. And yet if we see the oneness of who we are, and to go back to my husband, his PTSD, a gun held to his head far too many times, a lot of fighting in his childhood. There was a lot of fighting in my childhood. My motor mouth was my defense mechanism, but it got me into trouble a lot of times. That's trauma. So this experience happened for everybody in the house. And it was not ideal because, I was still floating, coming back from my events, coming back from the energy I was in. But, I got shown in the plane, Michelle, prepare your body. Because I knew what had happened, but prepare your body, because our body is the one that goes like, as soon as somebody's in a traumatic space and in this space of PTSD, he brings it, man. And And at one time, like I get very teary, but we were talking about this and talking about this, and eventually I said to him, okay, enough now, because I'm getting teary and we're both tired. I mean, he'd been up cleaning, you know, and he's like, trauma, it's not a good thing, blah, 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 blah. I'm fine. Because in the moment of the adrenaline rushing through him, he had to think quick, and he's very good at that. I'm completely the opposite. When there's something going on and it's big, I'm like, I need to run, man. Where do I go? You know, and I can't think straight. Whereas he's a straight thinker. He's like, just bring it. And he knows exactly what to do. So we're all different, Michael. And it's, again, not good, not bad. So we managed to speak through it. We managed to, and this is part of a huge, long 15 years for both of us. Because when he met me, I was incredibly, incredibly traumatized. And he's been on this journey of helping me evolve, like really helping me. Not easy for him because, like I said, I went into these real depressive moments and spaces, and coming to New Zealand was one of them. I really fell to pieces. And this is only 6 years ago. But I'm like, there's got to, like, I want to get better. I want to help others. But I had to help myself. You know, it's no use being the boy on top of the ocean, like, I'm fine, I got it together. But the waves are hitting you. I don't know why I just got that picture. But you're like, I'm okay, I can breathe. And then there's another wave and another wave. I'm going to freaking fix the world. I'm going to rescue everybody. And he's like, Michelle, you need to work on yourself first. But the transition that's happening is me pushing through. And I hope this doesn't sound egotistical, but I kept saying, I know there's more. And I know I want to shift. And I've become a better wife, a better mother, a better daughter, a better friend. But all of what I'm saying as those labels is to myself first and foremost. And I'm still learning it. So and he said to me in his traumatized space, you got to dig deep for me right now. You've got to hold space for me. And it's easy to do it for everybody else. It's easy to do it for my clients. It's easy to do it when I'm in an event setting, because nobody knows to live with Michelle what it's actually really like to live with Michelle. I can be quite like, la, 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 la. Oh, okay, alrighty, life's happening. But he was right. In that moment, I had to dig deep. Because especially as partners, it's easy to just trigger each other and be like, the programmings, this is old, I don't like you right now. And I just sat on the bed and I said, okay, I'm here, bring it. And that's taken years and years of both of us trusting each other. Because I said, I know you're angry. Even when he picked me up at the airport, you know, he was blah, 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 blah. I said, open your window. That's it, get it out. Come on, bring it. But it was a cycle. Like we take a cycle to get, and eventually at about 9 o'clock that night. So it's like we go, we come, we go, we come. And we go, and then eventually there's a coming together. I hope I'm explaining this correctly, but that's what happens when we're in a traumatized space, because it's easy to deflect, it's easy to push, it's easy to tell a person what we think of ourselves. So, you know, motor mouth is like, I'm giving it to him or he's giving it to me, but the reality is it's what we think of ourselves. Because even I went into a slight little girl moment where I was like, yep, that's it, I'm so stupid, that's it, you can't have a conversation with me. But I said to him, I'm getting full.
Yeah.
And this is like 2-3 hours later, I'm like, Bunny, I'm getting full now. So I'm starting to get defensive, so we need to call this quits. And when we get to that space in a relationship, that's where the adult inside of us is going, all right, guys, just let's wave the white flag. But, you know, when we're in that deep sense of wounded self, we just want to project, we want to bring it, we want to share it with, and listen to even my voice, you know. And it's not easy interpreting that. It's not easy taking it on. And it's taken years and years of us, of both. With him as a man, I've had to say to him, I need you to hold space for me right now. And that's where, you know, for me, most men are very black and white. And he's taught me to tell him or share with him what I need in that moment. But now he's learning to find his voice and share with me and tell me what he needs from me, because otherwise he just sucks it up, which is what he was doing. Is like, I'm not traumatized. I just did it. It's fine. It's gone. I'm like, Bunny, I can see you're traumatized right now. And even the friend that lives with us said, yep, I can see Brent's, he's taking strain. And then we come through that cycle. And then I call it wiping the slate clean. You know, sometimes we write the chalk on really deeply and it's like, yeah. And then we have to take a wet cloth to wipe it. But the old programmings is where it takes us to the past. And if I'm having a day or a moment, I'll say to him, Bunny, I'm wiping the slate clean today. My head's taking me to the past of what our relationship was, what it was about, and just bear with me. It's like, okay, I've got us. What do you need? And, you know, that takes years and years and years of building foundations. And sometimes it's not pretty, because exactly what you said about his life. And I had no idea up until last year that he'd actually been 16 years old. And those days we didn't have phones, so his parents thought he was dead. But could you imagine how that affected his whole psyche, his brain mechanism? He just said to me, I felt it here. And I'm like, whoa, part of your soul would have been defragmented, you know. And so he's slowly but surely learning to become whole. And who am I to go in my self-righteousness? Oh my God, you know, like if I'm learning love for myself, how can I not hold space for the very person who has shown up for me in the most ugliest days, ways, where I'm on the floor crying my eyes out because I don't know how to pull myself together. Yet he's seen my abilities, he's seen my light long before, but he didn't see his. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So we've seen each other's lights, and like we slowly but surely managing to find the brighter lights inside of us, and that's where we become whole in our relationships, which I know is not easy in any partnership or relationship. You know, it can be incredibly challenged, but they're the ones who see us in in every way, in our grumpiness, and you know, if we're drinking and fun, light, not fun, but in our deeply wounded selves. But it takes a real brave person in our expression to say, I'm here for you, bring it.
All of that. I mean, think of Thich Nhat Hanh, think of any situation in which it's easy to jump onto the thinking train, slap a lot of words in there, adjectives, or to react or to feel stuff that you don't have to feel. That's a tough concept. But I wanted to mention, so there's space, internal space, peace, inner peace, fearlessness, contentedness. I don't know what I'm trying to say on the word there, but the harmony of life doesn't leave you. Your thinking pulls you away. The situation that you think is so real pulls you away from what's a constant. And so what I'm trying to say is, I think I saw a Norwegian video one time, an old couple arguing in a cabin. They must have lived together for a long time, but they finally hit a wall. And at one point they've lost it on each other. And there's a little candlestick holder thing, a wooden whatever, two birds. They're pointed away from each other, each with a candle in the back of the bird. And so one of them, the light bulb goes off. This isn't love. This isn't patience. This isn't compassion. This isn't even kindness in any way. They're just letting each other have it. But one of them pulls back from the precipice, grabs a match, lights the candle on their bird, and turns it, pointing to the other bird whose back is still turned. The other one sees that and says, don't want to light that candle. I want to keep this going in an ugly way. They pull their match out, light the candle, turn their bird. Now they're nose to nose, remembering what it's all about in a bigger picture. Now that's all of us, whether we watch the news, it's politics, it's this protest, it's that COVID thing, it's this. And good luck remembering to remember, if you can remember, when you remember. That's almost the learning lesson in all of life. Can you remember to be compassionate twice a week, twice a month more? I did want to mention, when you look at, and some of these countries might have become some of the other country names that I mentioned, but you look at Africa or Asia, Cambodia, the killing fields, Rhodesia, Botswana, Zambia, South Africa, Angola, and so on. You had mentioned one other country, I forgot which one, but there's so much that goes on, and it doesn't matter the skin color. It doesn't matter any of that. There's just an actual dynamic that 10 years, 20, 50 years, it was one way, but it's the same dynamics, just take a different group of characters. And are they inflicting harm first on themselves? They don't realize it when they're inflicting harm on others. And it's unbelievable how humans roll sometimes. But that's something that, again, we've touched on at the very beginning of the conversation. We don't view the limits. We don't view the pain, the suffering, the stuff that we just go, oh my God, how could that happen? We don't view it as an opportunity. And I'm not trying to be glib about it, but everything is our instruction all of it, the pain, the suffering, the good stuff too. Everything is our opportunity for growth. Everything is our opportunity to live, breathe more, and be more compassion, love, and everything. And so I've gone on for a while, and there was a point to this, which is, can you talk to us about how are you seeing us being able to tap this more? How you've been tapping it more? Can you talk to us about the opportunity ahead for man to just simply breathe more, be more, a little less thinking, a little more loving?
Gosh, that's a great question. Stay more within yourself, disconnect from the dramas that are happening out there, and know that we are all incredibly powerful, not only as individuals, but as the team that we are. You know, in my opinion, for a long time have put all these people up on pedestals and asked them to be leaders, and it's happened for eons. And you know, every now and again, and I'm only mentioning Nelson Mandela because, or even Princess Diana, but Nelson Mandela because it's the country that I lived in for most of my life. And I saw the transition. I saw the change. I saw when, you know, it's kind of like the baton was given from one person to the next. And we were called the Rainbow Nation, and you were speaking about rainbow earlier on, but, you know, it's like, there was no color. It was just like, there was just upliftment. There was such a vibrational shift. We're the ones that named apartheid, you know, and unfortunately it's a stigma, and stigmas stick. And the reality is that Africans as a whole, and India as well, I was chatting to somebody the other day who used to live in India for a long time, and he said they're actually such a resilient group of people, but most beautiful people. And yes, there's a lot of violence and crime, and people might question, like, why did we leave the country? It was a choice that we chose to leave. But there were, gosh, for the first 4.5, 5 years of coming to New Zealand, as beautiful as what New Zealand is, we pined, we grieved our land. We were like, did we do the right thing? Should we have stayed? It was a choice. It was a choice to do something different for ourselves and for our family. And when we grew up in apartheid, you know, it was a different country. But then Nelson Mandela came out, and it literally just went like this universal shift within South Africa. And so many of us were saying, oh, we wished he'd come out earlier. Well, he didn't. He came out the time that he came out, and he brought such a different vibration to the world collectively, as did Princess Diana. So for me, every now and again, you have these one beautiful light that just managed to, you know, like, it's kind of like I'm being shown the grid in the center of the earth, and it's a beautiful crystal, and, you know, everything's revolving around it. And that's what happens. Every now and again, we have the one human being that just goes, here I am. How can we bring the coming together? And sometimes they might not be or look like the nicest people. You know, and I'm not going to mention any politicians' names, but everybody's playing their part. But when we're feeding them that energy, when we are like, they played their part perfectly in this phase of life that we all, it's kind of like I want to take a crystal ball right now and go, they played their part in the vibrational change. And it's not ideal, the Faucis of the world and but I'm not great with politics or politicians at all, but the one gentleman who's related to the Kennedys, is he Robert Kennedy? Who's coming up in the States. Look at that gentleman. He doesn't have the best of voices because of something that's happened in his body, but look how he's rising above and saying, I'm gonna take the flag, man. I'm gonna come into this world, and look, it's taken how many generations for this change to happen, not only in the States, but so many of us get so stuck on and I saw it, I mean, the divide in this country, it created a divide in our own home. And I'm not going to go into details because, you know, I made a choice for myself, my husband made a choice for himself, and we separated in our own home last year. And we said, like, literally, we were like,
Did
okay,
you do lines of paint, you know, the no-go zone, and have a demarcation line?
It was
through
fabulous.
the middle of the home?
I had moments where I sat with my animals on my bed, I have to say, and he knows this very well, where I was like, I've got a cat and I've got a dog, and I'm like, I'm so happy right now. And he was happy upstairs.
You could have had a
It was
peaceful war to
fabulous.
determine a complete conquest, who was going to win. I have Nelson Mandela for you, though. Go ahead and just hear one more subtopic or a spin-off topic.
Change. We are all learning to become resilient in our change. And again, it's that pivotal moment in time where if we don't get stuck on the stories, and I remember at my event with the Council of Eight, I channeled and they came through and I remember the action of a dog chasing a tail, or remember as kids, I don't know if you played it, Michael, but that stick in the middle and we go round and round and round and round and round and then we like all wonky. Like we can decide if we're going to play that game in our heads of going round and round and round with our stories, going round and round and round with our stories of berating politicians. But everyone has come here to play their part. Everyone, not good, not bad. And yes, many are transitioning, many are choosing to leave, many are, and I've seen this with many taking their lives. They don't like the denseness of earth. Gosh, I've had times in my deep woundedness and my deep depression of, it's just easier to leave, man, because it's great on the other side.
Yeah.
I don't know if we will reincarnate to come back to, we'll only know when we know. Who knew I was going to have the life story that I had in this lifetime? I had no idea, but I decided personally to say, and it really come with a lot of judgment to push through. I've lost people along the way, but I've gained people along the way, and that's life. Energy is always changing, always. Mother Earth is shifting us up. She knows. You know, the energy in the ocean, they know. The whales, the dolphins, they know what needs to be done. So when whales are in, and this is just my opinion once again, when whales are beaching themselves, they know that's a part of the collective, because we feel for them, you know, but it brings us together as humans, doesn't it? Those kids, those Taiwanese children or Thai children that got stuck in the cave a few years ago, do you remember how we heard about them, and I'm contradicting myself because, like, don't listen to the news, but it came into my space where it was like, we all sent them love. And yes, there was the one Navy SEAL that he died a hero. You know, people get stuck, oh my God, the one guy died, but he saved, what a beautiful soul. He saved how many children to come out of that cave? You know, so I look at life in symbolisms, like, what's the symbolism of this? What is the synchronicity? Where am I at right now? And when we again come back within, and I'm just getting Nelson Mandela kind of, he's just showing, like he used to do, if any of you watch him on YouTube, he used to do this dance. And he was just like, just dance life, man. Dance in life. Find the dance within. Because the more vibrant we feel inside of ourselves, the more life happens for us, the more easier life is, the more we create that synchronicity, that magnetic energy that just is just beautiful. And you don't see it through any other way, any other life. And it doesn't mean, yes, the roller coaster ride. Mine used to be massively low, my emotions, and massively high, like now it's like, oh, wow. And it doesn't mean like I don't have those moments of feeling massive joy where I'm just so expressive and I want to share it with everybody. But how can we dance through life? How can we just navigate and just be and share the joy? Because that's the community. You said it perfectly. Zoom has brought us together and I saw it so many times. People were so desperate to connect. But how magnificently amazing that COVID happened. And I don't know who invented Zoom, but those guys, what magic magicians to go, let's create this. Because you and I wouldn't be having this, you know, interaction and beautiful connection without Zoom. So there's always a wonderful world of wisdom. And do you know, are you familiar with Dr. John DeMartini?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not too sure which book he's written. Oh, he's written a lot, but I don't know which one it is. It might have been Gratitude or The Blessings or something. But the 9/11 towers that came down, he wrote about 4 or 5 pages of the gifts. If we can look for the gift that we are receiving in every moment. And when I read it at the time, I was in my head and I was like, really? You can find the gifts in this? Now, when I reread it, I'm like, wow, I see the gift.
I had a couple of those I wanted to share because they've been with me for since like 2012, 2013, 2011, somewhere in there. There's no right or wrong. There's proper understanding, but there is proper understanding. And so most of words, structure, what we think we know, the way systems, organizations, people and groups work, it's not compassion, love, kindness. It's not, there's always something broader. There's trillions of layers of compassion. And that's for us to figure out only on our own in this lifetime, the next lifetime, 5 lifetimes from now, at any pace you want. You want to be a molasses type person, fine. Head in the sand, ostrich, go for it. But anytime you want to actually start paying attention, it can be very rapid too. And it can be not so pleasant or pleasant experiences. Just depends on, again, life lessons come in. And if you want to try to knock all the lessons off, guess what? You'll just get 50 more. There's no gaming any system here. But something else that was said that I've always thought interesting. An angel once said, it's not up to humans to fix anything. They were talking about climate change or the planet. And I thought that was absolutely, it took me years to be like, well, what do you mean? And I'm not saying you and I are starting a factory tomorrow and we want to have 25 smokestacks instead of the planned 5, but there's something broader to, it's not up to humans to fix anything. This isn't as physical as we think it is. This is all about, can we learn to be kinder, gentler, more compassionate? How do we treat others? It's fascinating because it challenges, it upends everything societal we think we got from high school, from college, from the PhD, from politics, from this, from that, from the corporate track that we thought we were on, pushing something on others. So I wanted to mention that. And yet, can you give us there's a trillion definitions of compassion too. It changes as you grow. You hang your hat on it for 10 years, you're an expert on compassion this way, and then you have an aha moment and you're like, oh my God, it's so much bigger than I thought it was before. And you were a best-selling author then. What's your current definition of compassion? I love how I just phrased that.
That's beautiful, current. I'm just getting silence, and that's, for me, is just compassionate. It's like, you know, I want to speak about linear time, like when you gift us with your sage. There is no time, there is no screen. That's compassion. There's just that, I see you. And for me, that's what compassion feels like right now in this moment, just that sense of quiet, sense of self.
And my microphone's right here. So, I mean, sometimes I'm looking and listening, but I've got to do this for the crowd. I'm looking at the microphone now. Just a reminder that Michelle Carpenter in New Zealand has the ability to, she stands in front of a crowd, walks through the crowd, zones in on someone listening, and can connect to the loved ones and other messages too, just straight messages about their career, about their life, about their health. It's MichelleCarpenter.co, not .com, .co, co.nz, because she's in New Zealand, Nelson. She's actually from South Africa originally and is phenomenally talented, still growing as we all are, but has a great track record. Check out her website again, MichelleCarpenter.co.nz, and at her YouTube channel, which is at Michelle Carpenter Medium. Her channel is about 2,000 subscribers, 84 videos or so. Here's Claire, another angel who's resilience. We just talked to her before the show. What does Claire have for us as a reminder for us all? We're all on our unique life path.
I got stay within and water. Purify water. And, for me, purifying water, coming from an African country, I most certainly have seen many Africans, walking many, many kilometers, having to carry water on their heads. Some of them don't have the privilege of having fresh water or fresh water streams. And it really is about the preciousness of water. And it's just taking our water from our taps and just blessing it. The vibration of water is its own consciousness. Everything is consciousness.
Mm.
And we have a beautiful woman in New Zealand called Vida Austin, and she's shown us so much in terms of, like, she freezes water in little what's those little scientific dishes, petri dishes, and you can think about a thought, and the water takes on that thought. Then you literally think about the thought, or put a photo underneath, and put it in the freezer, take it out, and as soon as you hold it up, you can actually see the different thought patterns that we have. And sometimes it will just show you exactly what it needs to show you. But I'm really of the opinion, and I share this with my children, water's precious. Like, we had a dripping tap, and it annoys my husband, and I said to him, it's precious, because I kept on at him. I was like, what are we going to do? Do I need to get a new this, da-da-da? And he's like, it's just water. And I'm like, no, it's precious. Every drip is precious, because so many of us are privileged to open up a tap, to open up a shower at night. And this is where I feel incredibly blessed to have come from a third world country to, Zimbabwe the same. And when you see how much resilience, which is what you've just shown us, when you see how much those people that come from third world countries have, I think we'll stop bitching and moaning, living in the first world countries that we live in, are blessed to live in, okay? But those people just taught me so much resilience of, you live hand to mouth, and simple, simple, simple lives, but so happy, so joyful. Years ago, we went into the Transkei, where there's these little mud huts, and we went and stayed at this space, a beautiful home that was close to the ocean. And we still had the little video cameras. Remember the video cameras? And my son was about 7 months old at the time. And little black children that had the same clothes on for 10 days. And I had the video camera, and they're all standing behind me, and they were so intrigued to see me videoing my daughter and my husband in the ocean. And I just wanted to give them new clothes and go and buy them new clothes. My husband said, they look happy, don't they? I said, yes. They feel happy, don't they? Yes. And I went, that's my need. They were the happiest kids, living off the ocean. They eat sadza or pap, which is what they roll. It's mealie meal or maize meal. It's a staple food in South Africa. So again, going back to gratitude, be grateful for every single thing that you're able to wear, that you're able to buy, that you're able to have. But be grateful first and foremost, because we are water bodies. Be grateful for the water that we're able to have within our bodies, and the water that we're able to drink. Because if we bless it, the vibration shifts. And it is, once again, about the consciousness of love. Love is going to shift us. And you know the Tesla codes, Michael, 3, 6, and 9. And I was showing this in a hypnosis session, the universal codes. So we're in the year 3 right now. Massive change, transition. And by the time we get to year 6, and that's what we're all shifting towards. I think people are calling it like the 5th dimension, or the 5th earth, or the new earth, or whatever. But by the time we get to year 9, we're just going to have that absolute where we see each other. Because I think as human beings, we've certainly freaking forgotten how to see each other and connect with each other. It's easy to connect on our phones. It's easy to not want to speak to each other at restaurants. And I'm also part of it. I have to consciously say to myself, Michelle, put your phone down. I have to say to my children, hey guys, let's connect. How was your day? Take time to get up and greet your partners when they come to the door. Take time to thank the barista for the beautiful coffee. Take time to thank the cashier. Take time to thank the person who walks you over because you're trying to find something in a store. Those are the moments that really mean a lot. And compassion, and I just got it, you asked it earlier on, is appreciation for one another, because we've forgotten how to appreciate each other.
I'm remembering Red Shirt's definition of compassion, an appreciation for what is. And here's Red Shirt real fast. Gentlest mom in the world, unconditional love, spirit guide, compassion, compassion, compassion. Lakota Sioux wearing U.S. presidential medal. But what does he say about compassion to add in there?
Be gentle and kind.
And
To
I wanted
ourselves to ourselves, and then we're able to give it to others.
And I wanted to mention all the water talk. If anybody out there is like, well, I mean, I'm agreeing with some of this, it's resonating, or a lot of it, but where do I start? A body of water works. I mean, I'm not talking sharks, snakes, crocs, the local pool, your bathtub, 5 minutes. You don't ever take baths, that's fine. But what you're going to find is the initial part of this. If you only went for 7 minutes a day in a body of water, or an extra shower out of the blue, you're going to find you need it less hot over time. You're going to find that you actually can get comfortable with the 7 minutes. You're going to fight it. You're going to skip it. You're going to forget it. You're going to get in there and start thinking about work or whatever is taking up all your bandwidth. But at some point, part of you, and this is that word surrender. I don't personally like that word very much because you really don't give up anything. It comes right back. You're not giving up your identity or any of the stuff that some of the organizations talk about. But that body of water will help you transition. You don't need another human being. The universe will take care of the rest. Keep your head above the surface. We're not advocating anything else here. All safe. But sit. No phone. Don't even take it with you to the pool or to the bathroom. And with that, I want to bring in Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel. He once said, and let's get back to what I'm trying to point to. It's not about word structure, people, humans. I mean, grab Michelle, listen to Michelle, hire Michelle at some point, give her a go. But he once said, always try. And we know Yoda from Star Wars says, no try. They're both correct. And this is why it isn't about right or wrong. It's the vibration behind the words. It's the proper understanding of the universe. Are you aligned with love, compassion, and your heart? Are you being all you can be? And you're not going to always do that. But so they're both correct. And I love that. I can do Yoda's voice in a second. But here's Archangel Gabriel. He chose patience. Don't ask me why. Important to have patience. But here's Gabriel. What have you got for us from Gabriel?
Take time in nature. And even if you're not close to nature, planting a seed and nourishing the seed and nourishing the plant will teach us patience. And by giving to that plant, giving it water or sunlight or, because I think it's always, again, I'm incredibly blessed to live in this beautiful country, and we are surrounded by nature. And we don't have dangerous animals or, you don't have to So it's easy for me to sit and put myself on YouTube and go, oh my God, go into nature, guys. And everybody's like, I'm sitting in a high-rise building. Yeah. Like, Michelle, do you even freaking realize where I live? But absolutely, take a plant and nourish it. Give it the energy, give it the love, because it'll give back to you in that way. And that's the symbiotic relationship that we all have with one another. But I think at times we most certainly forget when we are feeling triggered. And that teaches us patience. It teaches us, having a puppy teaches us patience. And having children teaches us, oh my God, a massive amount of patience. But a plant is simple, because when you nourish that seed, we're actually nourishing a part of ourselves. That's the oneness that a lot of us in our channel, the Council of Eight talk about the oneness, the connectedness. They don't talk about separation. There's always a connection happening. But we can sometimes create that separation within inside of ourselves, which then creates the separation inside of our body, our cells.
And I was going to say no limits, and a reminder that you have no limits at home. Now, we're going to always spend those poker chips and stacks that are all about limits, or what we know, all over that table. The only time that it matters is when you put it on the roulette table or whatever the game is that we're talking about. But here are two more angels, Joy and Lucy, who's patience. And why don't we make myself the guinea pig, but you the guinea pig as well. 2 guinea pigs, New Zealand, San Antonio, Texas, on air, wrapping this all up. We'll have a chance to talk about a few more things that you do for folks in just a second. But maybe they can be in your ball of light, my ball of light. Why don't we have you? You said you don't often see color. Sometimes you do. But let's have you see some color one way or the other. I'll put my hand up, just like my finger is a lighter. You can see light coming off my finger. Anyone can do this at home. Ask them to jump in. You want to hit a great tennis swing? Don't tell the ref in the tournament you grab Joy to jump into your arm and hit the winner. I don't know how a tennis league's going to handle that, but you can just do that. So see what you can see for light around my head, my shoulders, my finger, and then I'll stop talking to let Michelle Carpenter in New Zealand do the rest.
I've been shown a violet flame, like just coming off your head, and this beautiful sort of dome, this beautiful connection, but a cloak, like a beautiful soft cloak that you've been gifted by your team right now. And they're just like, I'm seeing another one with a harp, and they're just playing to the tone of this vibration, and it's so beautiful and soft and symbolic, and then there's a beautiful little bright white light, and I'm being shown very much in your third eye, and but just this, oh my gosh, now it's shifting to this beautiful pink.
Oof. And now never say you don't see light, because all of us watching this years ahead are like, oh my God, that's so cool. I want what she's having. When Harry met Sally, take that dish. And she just said, oh my God, oh my God. And that was awesome. So bravo. Thank you for doing that. Michelle, let's have you wrap this up for us with what's either the most important takeaway, do that. Plus, what could you see ahead for yourself, or some sort of an event? Where do you see yourself getting taken? If you want a cheat sheet here, I have to do this for you. Get a whispered hint so you can't run away. Here's Joy and Charlotte, two more angels. Everyone can listen for their own life path ahead. This one in particular loves doing big reveals of what could be around the corner. Take heart.
So I'm being shown that travel is coming up, and I feel like I'm being called most certainly to Bali, the United States, Australia, and South Africa at some stage, but it's the sharings. It's in the sharings, and remember, when we all come together as a collective, whether it be through my mediumship or my channeling, it's in the sharing of that energy. And my hope for everybody is to leave upbeat. And I do this, I use music, like in the beginning I set up the event, the center, I feel into and I bring in all the energies, and I ask the ancestors to come, and all the guides and guardian angels. And when we leave, I always play like this really upbeat music, and I say to everybody, come on, everybody get up, because I love to dance. Get up, we've got to dance, we've got to shift it, because sometimes these events, especially the mediumship, can be heavy because people are grieving. But they're incredibly light-hearted at the same time, and beautiful and joyous, and they give messages that help us to feel fuller, and that we leave feeling more peaceful. With the channeling, I'm being shown that we're being guided to go to Egypt, Scotland, Ireland, and I just feel there'll be a shift, there'll be a dynamic shift, and it's bringing groups together. And again, it's just not about me. I'm the conduit, I'm the facilitator, but I just feel like we're being called collectively to create our little tribes or our big tribes across the world. And I keep seeing a beautiful ship. Like, for some reason, I want to go and most certainly bring the Council of Eight onto a ship, and let us just have fun, man, where we get to know each other. And different events. So I'm open to be invited to different events, and I look forward to just loving everybody and connecting with everybody. And I do love hugs, and I'm of the opinion where I always say to everybody, brace your bodies, like prepare your bodies, because I squeeze, man.
Like Saima.
Yeah, so I look forward to just connecting and collaborating. I love collaborating. Like, my friend Jill Cole and I started Earth Masters, and we've also been shown that this will take us to different places across the world. And it's just bringing people together, like somebody like yourself, Mike, where we can collaborate together and create craziness together, but joy and freedom. And so I'm open to that too, is collaborating with different people who are of the similar vibration and frequency to ourselves, because I think that the more we can laugh at ourselves, and this is what I'd love to end off with, the more we can laugh at ourselves internally and externally, the more we don't take things personally. It's like, yep, I got that one. I've laughed at myself already 15 times. Ha ha ha. You think you're laughing at me right now? And that's where I just feel like the neurons shift, everything starts to shift in our body, because we most certainly need more lightheartedness in these spiritual journeys. Because I've had quite a few clients that take these awakenings, take these ascensions, take these flips of these moments seriously, you know. And I'm like, dudes, we got to be human, man. We got to be human. We got to have fun. We got to laugh. And that there's quite a few guys that I follow on Instagram that they just like, they hanging out and they're having spliffs, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Very
Good
relaxed.
for you guys.
Exactly.
You know, but I think there's kind of this assumption that as spiritual, we've got to get our shit together. We've got to like really just like follow. And it's like, no, what feels good for you? What's joyful? What's lighthearted? What's loving? What's kind? And get your funk on, get your groove on, you know? So
Yeah.
all the above.
There's a definite tendency, it could be anything. Consciousness studies, it's really big right now, the whole UFO disclosure stuff. And what you're waiting on there, if you don't mind me throwing words towards this,
Go for it.
it's government, it's organizations, it's people. It's like talking sports politics or politics itself. A lot of words back and forth, and a lot of like checking boxes that all have to do with more words, more structure, more what did they do, what did they not do, research this. And what's available now is just straight listening. If people, I mean, I'm an angel guy first, then guides, religious, non-religious, meet your relatives, and you can meet light beings, and they're unconditional love. When they take you to dinner, you're coming back. I mean, this is awesome. So you get to hang out with them and tell people about it later. You'll live. But so pure light. So that's what's beautiful about this. So you could actually just meet light beings, see, you can do it with other people collectively. There's just something beyond, I'm going to try to put my finger on this. Our thinking, our heaviness, our seriousness, our self, is it absorption, importance, sense of, all that stuff, the humanity, the stuff that I do still, the stuff that you do, we all are going to do thinking. It ain't going away all the way, but a little less each week, 5% less. That gets quickly shoved aside when you're chatting with an angel, Aunt Martha, a light being that looks like Silver Surfer and just is here to help. I mean, you can ask anything and get any questions. So imagine, I'll throw in one kicker, hand grenade. If you could just see everyone's light, you'd know who was BSing and who wasn't, and who was in the heart, or any of the million subscales of being in the heart. Well, I mean, what did you just do? What have others done? And it's a little more available. What are kids going to do in the future? Maybe it's 100 years from now. Maybe it's next week, somewhere in between. I'm shocked. There's gambling going on in the casino. But once you start seeing consciousness itself on the bunny rabbit, your dog, your friends, because you trust them, you've let your guard down, and you're actually in your heart, seeing with your heart, doing the Zen thing, seeing without seeing. How wonderful of a shift that is, because it wasn't an organization or words or talk. It simply just started to happen. And what an amazing concept. I did just throw the hand grenade into this whole thing. We hadn't really talked about that much, but I wanted to mention as food for thought, that seed you talked about, because consciousness itself is a constant, and it's available. Sit in your local jacuzzi or pool. Don't bring a book. Don't bring your iPhone. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done for 5 minutes, 6.5 minutes a day. At some point, the part of you that can get bored is going to go away, and you're going to start discovering yourself, your authentic power, and what then later you're capable of putting your focus on. I hope that wasn't too long.
No, not at all. And I love your analogies of food for thought, because it's something I just love to mention. No right, no wrong, no judgment on this. But it's also okay, because a lot of people are very precious about so much in the consciousness of consciousness. And it is something to be precious about. But make good conscious decisions for yourself, you know, and again, with no judgment. So what I'm meaning is, if you are vegan, be okay with being vegan. If you're vegetarian, be okay with being vegetarian. If you're a meat eater, be okay with being a meat eater. You know, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to be like, is this good for me? Is it not good for me? I'm not too sure. Like, Michelle, what do you think? And I'm like, you know your body. You know your body. If I was to eat meat or gluten every single day, hey, I'm not going to go to the bathroom. You know, it's going to make me heavy. Sorry. But the reality is,
I'm waiting for a client. I need a client so I can go for the steak dinner. I haven't had a steak in so long, I can't even tell you when.
Oh my
last time I had
gosh.
a steak. So,
And then I'll bring you some biltong. As South Africans, we eat biltong, which is beef jerky, but it's
okay.
really, really delicious, okay?
Yes.
And so, you know, when we label ourselves at, like, for now, I love vegetarian food, and I'm like I say, I eat meat once in a blue moon, and it's once in a blue moon might be once every 2 weeks, but it's like it doesn't mean I'm this or this or this. But when we label ourselves, I think that's where the pressure of the preciousness comes involved, because it's like, okay, now I've got to be this, I've got to be this, and for me, we all parts. We have all the parts. It's like you said earlier on, we're all working, we're all doing our thing. Every now and again, we're going to have a bit of a trip switch and we're going to be like, oh, shit, not my finest moment. But it's okay. Just forgive yourself for that not being your finest moment.
Yeah,
And
ego, the psyche is just, it's fear, stress, worry, judging,
mm-hmm,
reacting, resisting. It's knowledge. And a lot of people are going to get hung up on this, but think about science and how long a scientific discovery lasts. A week, a month, maybe a few years, but things are always changing. And to approach a lot of these topics as science first is almost backwards. It's what we all do on everything, though. Can't hand out speeding tickets at the Indy 500 or at a
no,
Formula One race.
no,
Yeah,
First,
you're
take
going to hurt
arm.
your hand. Yeah, and then it blows away.
Yeah.
But so that's in a way how a lot of us handle everything, is we try in the most absurd way to approach a topic when it's unapproachable through words and structure. Just let go. You already have that connection. And yeah, and if you feel a little frustration on the topic as you're looking at groups of people, if you go knock on a Consciousness Institute door and you're like, hey, do you want to hang out and do more consciousness? They're like, go away. We're looking for consciousness. I'm borrowing from the Art of Zen and the Motorcycle Maintenance book, Persig, who's since passed over. But if you go to an angel crowd and you're like, hey, do you want to meet angels? I've had doors slammed on me where they're like, no, go away. We're looking for angels. And name anything, the Buddhist community for Buddha. The near-death experience crowd. You want to have a near-death experience without having to die. Angels can bring that to you. Yeah. And, I'm worried, I had a near-death, close, or even a guest said that it was a near-death experience. It was a near-death experience, but nothing actually happened. I saw stars and it wasn't my time to go. My dad with angels helped pull me out, but it's not worthy enough to be part of the near-death community because nothing special happened at that time. I wouldn't have known any different. But it was still a part of my foundational upbringing that allows me to do this today. So it's easy for all, and I wouldn't want to change a thing for anyone. All the way they think, everyone's structure, the way I think. I've got a million crazy values. So all of it's good. Wherever you are right now is perfect as it is. And is it Buddhism? When you're ripe, you're ready the fruit's ready to fall. You're ripe right now, whether you know it or not, out in the audience. Just to remind you, you've got it all right this second. You only have to trust more and do this much amount of thinking less and watch what happens. Let the universe do its job. Michelle, last thing for you about how big the universe is, how ready and standing by it is to step in and either, direct help, indirect help. You've had a lot of indirect amazingness that when you look back, you're like, oh my gosh, I got navigated through a lot.
Proper. There is absolutely no doubt. And I fought it. I resisted it for a very long time. And this was part of my elevation into spirituality, or elevation into seeing my light. And every now and again I have a little pity party, and I'm okay with that. I allow it and I breathe it in and I get it out into the earth, and that's for me just a little simple tool, a little simple exercise for any of us that are feeling any negative emotion. Just breathe it in, hold your breath, like tighten everything and just get it out. Because we're not wanting that emotion to circulate, that negative or lower vibrational frequency to circulate. So I'm incredibly, incredibly blessed. And so here's the thing, I was sharing about this fire that started over the weekend. Guess how I was looked after without even consciously being aware? My friend that I went to, I've spoken of a few times, Jill said to me last week, Mish, bring another suitcase with you, an empty suitcase, because I have a whole bunch of linen for you. How do you explain that?
Yeah.
So, and beautiful, like brand new stuff. And, so old linen burnt, and here we have new. So it's looking at it, that symbolism of we were being looked after. My husband was woken up, all these little moments, and we knew it was, when we sat and we spoke it through, it was like, wow, one of those real wow moments. And I am so incredibly privileged to have many of those wow moments. When we're in ego, which I have been many times in my life, when I first labeled myself a spiritual medium, I used to negotiate with the guides and with my team and go, like I'd go to a dinner party and say, okay, let me practice. Okay, guys, like you want me to do this work? This is like I'm going to negotiate with you. Like you bring the people, so I can just tell them what I do. You know, nobody. You could hear the crickets in the background, and I was like, okay, there's ego. But when we just get out of our way, they are always working. Our team is working for us, and I just unfortunately, in this lifetime, had to have a few big wake-ups in order to genuinely wake up to myself, to let go of my anger, my mother's, my father's, my grandfather's, my grandmother's. That's the intergenerational trauma that we can carry. And some of us, you know, I call it waking up, and that maybe even is a bit egotistical to say that, but some people just carry on with life and they're happy with who they are, and that's okay as well. It's not right or wrong, because our team are our team regardless, and they're walking and navigating with us. And you know, another simple exercise is, if we're feeling perplexed, just breathe in love into your heart and breathe out love.
Yep.
Breathe in love, breathe out love. It's
And
such
go
a
one way.
tool.
Go one way with your requests. You don't have to do anything else. Just trust that you're heard and trust you can get that help. And that's enough to bridge the gap of anything we've talked about today. But be like, hey, Archangel Michael, my guardian angel, my relatives, my angels I haven't even met, and you help me and make this nice. And just own it with a thank you, amen, a gratitude, or whatever your way of rock and roll saying thank you. And if you do that, just, yeah, you only have to trust, you know, this, well, it's really this much to get down to here and trust, and that's it.
But look how small that gap is, Mike. It's like little.
It could be a lifetime, 2, 3 lifetimes.
Yes, but it's
it depends. It could be like this, or it could be 3 lifetimes. It's up to each person. And it, you know, can you get to the body of water, sit in it for 6 minutes, divorce the phone, and then can you allow, and good luck with that, because that could be a 20-year journey, just 5 minutes a day.
Absolutely. And I think that we're all individually worth it. So, you know, if somebody's sitting questioning, going, where do I start? I don't know about yourself, but I've had clients who've said, oh, Michelle, I watched you, or I didn't know if I should book a session, and it's taken me like 1.5 years. And just because of where they were at in their moment, not right, not wrong, but it always happens at the most beautiful, beautiful time. But in our humanness, in our thinking selves, we wait, and our physical selves, we wait until our body's in complete pain. We wait until something really, that was my journey. I waited until, but it's, you know, my divorce was a part of my evolving. Maybe he evolved, maybe he didn't, I don't know. But don't wait is what I'm trying to say. You know, if you get that inclination, there's a little moment that your team are saying, come on, I'm giving you a gentle nudge. Come on, off you go. Book a session with Michael, or book a session with Michelle, or watch something on YouTube where we can learn more. Because like you said, there's a lot of information out there, but they give us little gentle nudges. And we're like, I was most certain, no. So they gave me big nudges.
And I'm here to assure
fall in your face.
It's as easy as a flip of the switch, but the switch is really you to your heart. You're more light than anyone's more light than they realize, and you only have to give it a chance. So
yes, absolutely.
Well, Michelle Carpenter in New Zealand, thank you so much for being on Angels, Positivity, and Love. You've certainly been amazing on this show.
Thank you
for all the time. We look forward to having you back, maybe in the fall to air in the winter. So thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Michael. It's my absolute honor and pleasure. And you did say to me early on, I have to go and grind myself before I go into sessions, and I do. So I'm going to go eat.
Exactly.
But it's been an absolute honor and privilege and pleasure to not only meet you, but to spend this time with you. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Mike.